Imagine a land so vast that it stretched across continents, its cities brimming with monumental architecture, palaces that rivaled the sun itself, and streets laid with precision that defied the technology of its era. Now imagine that all of it simply vanished. No records, no textbooks, no chronicles. A civilization of immense power, swallowed by the shadows of history. This is Tartaria, a kingdom whose existence seems to teeter on the edge between myth and reality, a phantom empire erased from the pages of time. The first whispers of its grandeur appear in scattered maps, in cryptic references by travelers who dared to venture into its mysterious lands. Yet, every time its name surfaces, it is accompanied by a question that has haunted historians and dreamers alike. How could an empire of such scale vanish almost entirely from human memory? The story of Tartaria begins not in textbooks, but in the quiet corners of forgotten archives and the margins of maps drawn centuries ago. In some maps of the 16th and 17th centuries, vast swathes of land stretching across northern and central Asia are labeled simply as Tartary. These territories are depicted as stretching endlessly, dotted with cities, rivers, and mountains, a civilization that appears organized, prosperous, and undeniably powerful. Yet when one turns to recorded history, there is no empire that matches the size, sophistication, or influence suggested by these maps. It is as if history itself has drawn a curtain over Tartaria, leaving only fragments for the curious to ponder. Travelers' journals provide another tantalizing hint. Writings from adventurers who dare to cross these lands speak of cities with imposing towers, bridges that spanned great rivers, and walls so vast they seemed impregnable. Some accounts describe technologies and practices that would be centuries ahead of European standards of the time. Hints of energy systems, elaborate waterworks, and monumental construction. These details, however, are inconsistent, sometimes dismissed as exaggeration or fantasy, and the travelers themselves often vanish into obscurity, their words almost deliberately forgotten. The mystery thickens when one considers the deliberate vagueness of some of these accounts. Was it mere exaggeration, or were the chroniclers constrained by a silent hand, aware that the truth of Tartaria was not for the world to know? The very notion of Tartaria challenges our understanding of history. Civilizations rise and fall, yet leave traces, pottery shards, inscriptions, ruins, or stories passed down through generations. Tartaria, however, seems to defy this rule. Its traces are scattered, almost teasingly visible, yet never conclusive. Archaeologists occasionally uncover monumental buildings, immense brickwork, and remnants of structures far more advanced than the time to which they are conventionally dated. Photographs of forgotten palaces, now buried under earth or misattributed to other cultures, reveal architectural styles that suggest a continuity, a grand design lost to memory. The more one searches, the more questions emerge. Could these remnants truly belong to a civilization forgotten by all of history? Or is there another, darker explanation? There are those who whisper about deliberate erasure. The mud floods, the alleged fires, the cataclysmic events said to have buried cities under layers of earth. Some researchers suggest that these were not natural occurrences alone, but events manipulated or exploited to obliterate Tartaria from human knowledge. It is a notion that sounds like the plot of a conspiracy thriller, yet the evidence, though fragmented, persists in the faint outlines of buried cities, in architectural anomalies, and in the curious absence of documentation. Even maps, some argue, were redrawn to hide Tartaria, with its territories claimed by emerging empires, renamed, and woven into new historical narratives. But beyond maps and ruins, beyond the hints of lost technology and unexplained architecture, lies the most haunting question. Who were the people of Tartaria? What kind of society could rise to such heights, achieving architectural marvels and technological sophistication, only to vanish so completely that future generations would doubt its very existence? Their culture, beliefs, and stories are almost entirely lost, surviving only in fleeting mentions, obscure symbols, or whispered legends carried across borders and centuries. There is an undeniable human element in this mystery. The lives of countless individuals, builders, thinkers, and dreamers, whose world was erased, leaving behind nothing but shadows and questions. As we stand on the edge of this exploration, we are forced to confront a profound dissonance. How can an empire so vast, so advanced, and so influential leave almost no imprint on the historical record? Is Tartaria truly a forgotten empire, or has its memory been deliberately obscured, hidden in plain sight by those who shaped the narrative of history itself? The answer may never be entirely clear, but the whispers remain in maps, in ruins, in the very fabric of forgotten cities. And it is these whispers that will guide us deeper into the enigmatic world of Tartaria, where every discovery raises more questions than it answers, and every ruin, every artifact, every faded symbol hints at a civilization that was once mighty, now lost, yet never entirely gone. What follows is not merely a recounting of history, but a journey into mystery itself. A journey to uncover the Ghost Kingdom of Tartaria, to listen to the echoes of a civilization erased, and to confront the unsettling possibility that history, as we know it, may hold secrets far greater than we ever imagined. Long before historians codified empires into neat timelines, before textbooks could claim certainty over the rise and fall of civilizations, there were whispers, fleeting traces of a kingdom that spanned continents, leaving its mark in the most elusive ways. Tartaria, as it is now called, is a name that flickers on the margins of old maps, appears in the diaries of wandering explorers, and surfaces in sketches of grand cities that defy explanation. These footprints are faint, scattered, and often dismissed as fanciful exaggerations. Yet, for those willing to look beyond the official narrative, they form a trail of astonishing hints, a shadowed map of a civilization that once held sway over vast lands. In the late 16th century, travelers crossing the steppes of Eurasia documented regions unlike anything seen in Western Europe. Descriptions spoke of sprawling cities with geometrically precise layouts, buildings towering in ways that seemed impossible given the technology of the time, and public spaces so vast they defied belief. Some chroniclers noted the strange symbols etched into walls and gates, unfamiliar alphabets and emblems that suggested governance, spirituality, or knowledge far beyond contemporary understanding. Yet, these accounts were few and often ignored by the historians of their own nations, lost in the broader tapestry of European colonial expansion and scholarly focus on empires like the Ottomans, the Ming, or the Russian Tsardom. Tartaria was mentioned, if at all, as a distant, almost mythical land, a place of mystery rather than history. Maps from this era reinforce the puzzle. While many early European maps accurately represented known territories, some included enormous, vaguely labeled regions simply marked as Tartary. These lands stretch across Siberia, Central Asia, and beyond, depicted with rivers, mountains, and settlements that imply governance and society. The cartographer's notes often betray hesitation, uncertainty, or second-hand information, hinting that the data came from travelers, traders, or mysterious envoys who ventured into these lands and returned with tales too incredible for mainstream acceptance. And yet, the maps are consistent enough to suggest more than mere fantasy. There is a pattern, a hint that Tartaria was not imagined but existed in some form that defies conventional records. The intriguing part is not just the existence of these maps, but what they imply about deliberate omissions. While Western Europe meticulously documented the growth of nations and empires, Tartaria remains a shadow, a place where the historical record falls silent. Some theorists argue this is the result of deliberate erasure, that as new empires rose, they claimed the lands of Tartaria, redrawing maps and rewriting history to suit political ambitions. Others suggest it may be the result of natural disasters or social upheavals that obliterated records and monuments. Whatever the cause, the footprints remain subtle, scattered, yet persistent, like echoes of a civilization that refuses to be entirely forgotten. Accounts from explorers provide another layer of mystery. One traveler describes a city of towers so immense that they seem to touch the clouds, streets wide enough for hundreds to march abreast, and marketplaces filled with goods unknown to any other land. Another recounts grand fortresses of brick and stone, constructed in patterns so intricate that modern engineers would struggle to replicate them. Yet, these descriptions are often followed by puzzling contradictions. Travelers report interactions with people who speak in languages unrecorded elsewhere or customs that seem incongruous with neighboring regions. It is as if Tartaria existed as a parallel world, one that flourished, then slipped away from collective memory before its wonders could be fully understood or documented. Archaeological evidence, sparse as it is, hints at a reality behind the whispers. Across Eurasia, researchers occasionally unearth monumental structures, brickwork, and ruins that do not conform to the architectural knowledge or timeline attributed to their locations. Some buildings display advanced engineering techniques, elaborate water channels, and precise geometrical planning that suggest an organized, sophisticated civilization. Yet, the lack of continuous records makes attribution nearly impossible. These structures are often misclassified, overlooked, or claimed by neighboring cultures in the historical narrative, further deepening the mystery. Even the few surviving texts referencing Tartaria reveal inconsistencies. Chronicles speak of great rulers, sprawling armies, and societies with intricate hierarchies, yet the names, dates, and events rarely align with known historical accounts. Some historians dismiss these sources as hearsay or legend, yet the consistency of certain details, architectural styles, symbolic motifs, and geographical references suggests a kernel of truth. Tartaria is neither entirely legend nor fully verified history. It exists in the uncertain space between what was documented and what was deliberately forgotten. It is tempting to consider Tartaria as a footnote, a historical curiosity, but the deeper one probes, the more compelling the evidence becomes. Coins, stamps, and artifacts bearing strange symbols occasionally surface in museums or private collections, their origins obscure, their purpose unclear. Structures with immense brick walls, layered in patterns unmatched elsewhere, hint at an empire capable of extraordinary feats of engineering. Even the landscape itself tells a story. Rivers rerouted, roads aligned in improbable precision, and earthworks that suggest grand urban planning long before similar designs emerged in recognized civilizations. The footprints are there, hidden in plain sight, if only one knows where to look. Perhaps the most haunting element is the silence of the people themselves. If Tartaria was so vast, so influential, then where are the voices, the stories, the myths that endure? Some suggest that local folklore, shamanic practices, and oral traditions carry fragments of memory, preserved in songs, tales, and rituals. These cultural echoes are faint, often dismissed by mainstream historians, yet they hint at a civilization whose spirit lingers even as its physical presence was diminished or erased. It is in these whispers, in the shadows of maps and ruins, that the essence of Tartaria remains, a civilization almost entirely forgotten, yet never fully gone. As we follow these scattered footprints deeper into the mystery, one realization becomes unavoidable. Tartaria challenges the foundations of recorded history. It forces us to question why certain civilizations are remembered and others erased, why maps show what textbooks ignore, and why the physical remnants of a once great empire seem both astonishingly advanced and tantalizingly incomplete. The shadows of Tartaria beckon, urging us to peer beyond the accepted narrative, to trace the faint outlines left in journals, maps, ruins, and legends, and to confront the uncomfortable possibility that history may have concealed truths far stranger and more extraordinary than we have been taught to believe. Maps are supposed to be tools of certainty, a way to understand the world and our place in it. They guide explorers across oceans, armies through deserts, and traders along winding rivers. Yet, in the case of Tartaria, maps become something far stranger, almost conspiratorial in nature, as if the lines and names themselves are designed to mislead, to hide the truth of a vanished empire. Early European and Russian cartographers produced maps that depict vast northern lands, stretching from Siberia to Central Asia, labeled simply as Tartary. Rivers snake through these territories, mountains rise in meticulous detail, and cities, countless, organized, and sprawling, are marked as if an empire thrived there. And yet, when history books turn their attention to these regions, Tartaria disappears. It is as though the maps are speaking a different truth, a secret history that contradicts the accepted narrative. Some scholars have attempted to explain these anomalies. Perhaps cartographers relied on hearsay, rumors from travelers, or exaggerated reports from explorers who had glimpsed Tartaria's outskirts. Yet, when we examine multiple maps across decades and regions, a strange consistency emerges. Certain cities appear repeatedly, architectural styles are vaguely referenced, and territorial divisions remain similar, even when drawn by entirely different hands in distant lands. This repetition suggests more than imagination. It hints at real knowledge of a real empire. And yet, these maps never made it into the mainstream historical narrative. It is as though the truth was visible, yet deliberately ignored. The oddities do not end with the labeling. Some maps show architectural wonders in places where no known structures should exist. Towers rise above the landscape. Fortresses with impossible dimensions guard invisible borders, and roads cut through mountains with geometric precision. The scale of these constructions, when compared to known civilizations of the same era, seems far beyond what would have been possible. Scholars who attempt to reconcile these depictions with archaeological findings often hit contradictions. Ruins are either missing, misdated, or attributed to other cultures. It is a pattern that raises a provocative question: were these maps a record of a forgotten empire or a subtle rewriting of history to conceal it? The deliberate erasure theory becomes more compelling when we consider later maps. By the 18th and 19th centuries, vast territories that once bore the name Tartary are suddenly absorbed into the domains of Russia, China, or other emerging empires. Borders shift with alarming speed, cities vanish from records, and historical continuity is broken. It is not simply an omission. It is a transformation of space, as if the memory of Tartaria itself was overwritten. Modern researchers note that this pattern is not unique. Throughout history, maps have been used as instruments of power, tools to legitimize conquest, and even as subtle instruments of propaganda. Could it be that Tartaria's disappearance from maps mirrors its erasure from history books? There are also fascinating cases where maps show architectural details and city layouts inconsistent with their purported dates. Some structures appear in a style centuries ahead of what is documented in neighboring civilizations. Bridges, fortifications, and palaces drawn in these maps suggest advanced engineering. Yet when researchers attempt to locate these structures on the ground, they find only fragments or nothing at all. Skeptics dismiss this as exaggeration, artistic license, or error. But the consistency of these anomalies across multiple independent sources suggests a more complex reality. Perhaps these maps are the faint memory of a civilization intentionally obscured, its accomplishments too dangerous or too advanced to be widely acknowledged. Then there is the mystery of hidden inscriptions and symbols. Some maps contain cryptic markings, geometrical shapes, strange alphabets, or unrecognized insignias, whose meaning remains elusive. Could these be remnants of Tartaria's governance or spiritual life? Were they included as clues, warnings, or simply as evidence of knowledge that was deliberately hidden? Historians and cryptographers alike have puzzled over these symbols, unable to decipher their origin, yet compelled by the idea that they carry a truth buried beneath centuries of neglect and deliberate omission. The emotional weight of these maps lies not just in their content, but in their implications. Imagine discovering a world that existed, yet is erased from your textbooks, a civilization so vast that it spanned continents, ruled over millions, and achieved engineering feats unimaginable for its time. And yet, the world is taught to believe it never existed. The maps become a haunting testament, a window into a reality almost entirely hidden. They demand a reckoning with the notion that history is not a static truth, but a narrative shaped by power, politics, and selective memory. Some theorists have gone even further, proposing that Tartaria's very absence in recorded history is linked to technological suppression. Could the knowledge of energy systems, advanced construction techniques, or even forms of governance have been deliberately erased to prevent future societies from reclaiming it? The maps, in this light, are not merely geographic tools. They are ghostly footprints, reminders of a civilization whose achievements were perhaps too extraordinary to survive in a world governed by conventional historical accounts. Yet despite the questions, the maps persist, quietly defying erasure. They appear in libraries, archives, and private collections, waiting for those willing to look closely, to trace the borders, examine the symbols, and notice the cities that should not exist. They challenge us to consider the fragility of memory, the impermanence of historical truth, and the possibility that our understanding of the past is incomplete, shaped as much by what is hidden as by what is revealed. As we close this chapter of exploration, one realization becomes chillingly clear. Tartaria's maps do not lie in the sense of fabrication, but in their absence from modern understanding. They hint at a civilization erased, leaving only faint outlines, subtle clues, and unanswered questions. Every line, every symbol, every city drawn centuries ago is a whisper from a ghost kingdom, inviting us to follow the trail further, to uncover the truth hidden behind the shadows of history, and to confront the unsettling idea that the past we think we know may be only a fraction of what once was. The next step in our journey will take us beyond these lines and labels, into the physical manifestations of a civilization almost entirely erased. The buildings, the monuments and the architectural wonders that still stand, defying explanation and challenging our perception of history itself. Across the vast, forgotten stretches of Eurasia lie remnants of structures so grand, so intricate, and so monumental that they challenge the very timeline of human capability. Colossal palaces, sprawling cities, and ornate towers rise from photographs and sketches, their origins often misattributed or dismissed as exaggeration. These are the architectures of Tartaria, physical manifestations of a civilization so advanced that modern scholars struggle to understand how such feats could have been accomplished with the tools and knowledge believed to exist at the time. From the moment one glimpses the sheer scale of these constructions, it becomes impossible not to ask, how could such an empire, capable of building wonders far beyond its era, vanish almost entirely from history? The first thing that strikes any observer is the scale. Palaces rise multiple stories high, far exceeding anything seen in Europe or Asia during the same period. Roofs are adorned with spires, domes, and intricate carvings, suggesting not only technical skill, but also a profound sense of aesthetic sophistication. Streets are laid with meticulous precision, sometimes in grid patterns that hint at advanced urban planning. Bridges span wide rivers with seemingly impossible engineering, their arches and supports precise enough to endure centuries of neglect. Every brick, every stone, seems deliberate, as if the builders were following an architectural blueprint far more advanced than their contemporaries could conceive. Some of these structures are now buried beneath layers of earth, mud, or debris. Accounts of so-called mud floods describe sudden deluges that engulf cities, covering entire districts in a matter of hours or days. Modern investigations into these claims have revealed layers of debris that seem inexplicably uniform, often burying entire buildings while leaving adjacent streets and structures untouched. It is as if some cataclysmic event, natural or otherwise, erased the physical traces of Tartaria while leaving tantalizing glimpses of its glory behind. The surviving architecture becomes a puzzle, a whisper of a civilization whose technological and organizational prowess seems almost otherworldly. Equally intriguing is the apparent uniformity of design across vast distances. Photographs and sketches of Tartarian-style buildings, taken in regions hundreds or even thousands of miles apart, reveal recurring motifs. Ornamental facades, domes, arches, and brickwork techniques that appear strikingly similar despite their supposed isolation. Scholars often struggle to explain this phenomenon, as there is no documented empire spanning such distances with this level of architectural continuity. Could it be that Tartaria had a standardized system of construction, an empire-wide architectural language now all but lost to memory? Or are these similarities the faint echoes of a civilization deliberately obscured from the historical record? The engineering itself defies conventional understanding. Some towers appear to have been constructed with methods that would have required precise knowledge of weight distribution, material science, and mechanical advantage far beyond what is documented for the era. Certain brick patterns are so intricate that modern engineers have marveled at their durability, noting that many structures have withstood earthquakes, floods, and centuries of erosion with minimal damage. Bridges and aqueducts, carefully documented in maps and sketches, suggest mastery of hydraulic engineering and load-bearing design, hinting at knowledge that seems to vanish once the empire disappears from history. Even more confounding are the ornate decorations and symbolic carvings found on surviving buildings. Geometric patterns, mysterious inscriptions, and motifs that resemble esoteric symbols suggest a society with both artistic sophistication and potentially hidden knowledge. Some researchers speculate that these symbols represent a form of codified knowledge, perhaps related to governance, spirituality, or even scientific principles lost to time. Each element, from a carved spire to the layout of a city square, speaks of a culture that valued both grandeur and precision, a civilization whose intellectual and artistic accomplishments may have been systematically erased along with its physical presence. The emotional impact of encountering such structures cannot be overstated. Imagine walking through a city whose scale, design, and craftsmanship rival or surpass what we attribute to later European or Asian empires. There is awe, yes, but also an unsettling sense of loss, the realization that an entire civilization's achievements have been stripped from memory. The buildings themselves seem to demand recognition, as if they are pleading with a modern observer to acknowledge their existence, to remember what was once thought impossible. It is a confrontation with both wonder and frustration. Wonder at human capability, and frustration at the deliberate gaps in our understanding of history. Some theorists propose that Tartaria's architecture hints at lost technologies. Could the empire have had advanced tools, machines, or energy systems that allowed such constructions to be completed on a massive scale? Are the grand domes, intricate brickwork, and precise alignments remnants of techniques no longer known, deliberately suppressed or forgotten in the upheavals that erased Tartaria from history? The buildings themselves, in this view, are more than mere structures. They are evidence of knowledge lost, a testament to the ingenuity of a civilization erased. The pattern of erasure extends beyond individual buildings. Entire cities, once bustling with life, are now reduced to ruins or misattributed to other cultures. Streets and walls hint at urban planning on a scale that rivals or exceeds known civilizations of the same era, yet no continuous record exists. It is as though the memory of Tartaria's architects, laborers, and citizens has been scrubbed from history, leaving only their monumental creations as ghosts, speaking silently of their lost empire. In some ways, the architecture of Tartaria is its own storytelling medium. Each building, tower, and city block communicates not just a utilitarian function, but a narrative of ambition, intellect, and aesthetic mastery. It forces us to reconsider what we know about pre-modern societies, challenging assumptions about technological progress, artistic capability, and the scope of human organization. These structures, standing silently across the landscape, ask us to question why they were omitted from the historical canon, and to wonder what other civilizations might have been similarly erased. As we move beyond these extraordinary constructions, we begin to see the outlines of a civilization whose physical presence is both tangible and elusive. The buildings, bridges, and monuments are not mere relics. They're the foundations of a story deliberately hidden, inviting us to peel back the layers of earth, mud, and time to glimpse the empire that once was. Tartaria, through its architecture, challenges our understanding of history itself. A civilization that was once impossibly advanced, now almost entirely forgotten, yet still whispering to those who will listen. The next step in our exploration will take us even deeper into Tartaria's mysteries, examining the technologies, energy systems, and construction methods that may have powered this empire, revealing a civilization whose capabilities continue to astonish and provoke questions centuries later. When we examine the remnants of Tartaria, it is not just the scale of its architecture that astonishes, it is the technology implied by its construction. Advanced engineering, precise layouts, and monumental buildings hint at a civilization that harnessed knowledge far beyond what is traditionally attributed to the era. Scholars, Engineers and independent researchers alike have marveled at structures that seem almost impossible given the supposed tools and techniques of the 17th and 18th centuries. Could Tartaria have possessed machinery, energy systems, or construction methods deliberately lost to history, hidden beneath layers of time, mud, and deliberate erasure? One of the most compelling pieces of evidence lies in the uniformity and precision of construction. Buildings across thousands of miles share striking similarities. Brick sizes, architectural proportions, and geometric patterns appear consistent, as though guided by standardized engineering knowledge. For a civilization considered pre-industrial, this level of planning is extraordinary. Some theorists suggest the use of advanced machinery or energy systems that allowed for faster construction and greater precision. Tools and techniques that, if rediscovered today, could reshape our understanding of pre-modern engineering. Consider the immense domes, spires, and arches that crown Tartarian buildings. Many appear to defy gravity, constructed without the scaffolding or reinforcement methods believed necessary at the time. Modern engineers, examining photographs and blueprints, often express disbelief at how such feats could have been achieved using the materials and manpower historically available. Some structures even show signs of advanced metallurgy or composite building materials, blending durability with elegance in a way that seems centuries ahead of its era. The implications are staggering. A civilization capable of extraordinary technological innovation, yet almost completely erased from the historical record. Water management offers another fascinating insight. Aqueducts, canals, and drainage systems uncovered in Tartaria's former territories suggest knowledge of hydraulics that rivals or surpasses contemporary engineering in Europe and Asia. Rivers were channeled to irrigate cities, prevent flooding, and support agriculture in ways that demonstrate not only technical skill, but an understanding of environmental manipulation. Some accounts hint at energy transmission through water or mechanical systems, possibly powering certain city functions. If accurate, this would imply that Tartaria's technology was not merely practical, but advanced enough to form the foundation of a highly organized urban civilization. Even the layout of cities hints at scientific and technological knowledge. Urban planning in Tartaria often follows precise geometric patterns, with streets, squares, and public spaces aligned according to astronomical, geographical, or symbolic principles. Scholars have noted similarities to modern concepts of city planning, including modular layouts, zoning for residential and administrative purposes, and integration of green spaces. Such advanced design implies more than aesthetic preference. It suggests a deep understanding of mathematics, engineering, and societal organization, further reinforcing the idea that Tartaria's technology was far ahead of its time. Then there is the mystery of energy. Some researchers have proposed that Tartaria may have harnessed forms of energy unknown to contemporary civilizations. While definitive proof remains elusive, certain architectural features hint at mechanisms for generating or distributing power, towers aligned with solar angles, underground channels, and structures that seem to act as conductors or receivers. Combined with reports of advanced machinery and construction methods, these hints suggest a civilization experimenting with or even mastering technologies that were later forgotten or deliberately suppressed. Artifacts and visual records also support the possibility of lost technologies. Drawings, sketches, and photographs from the 18th and 19th centuries occasionally depict machines or devices that appear to be engines, lifts, or even early forms of mechanized transport. While mainstream historians often dismiss these images as artistic exaggeration, the recurring motifs and technical similarities suggest a consistent knowledge base. Could these be glimpses of Tartaria's technological prowess, hidden in plain sight, yet ignored or reinterpreted by the historical record? The implications of such lost technology are profound. If Tartaria possessed advanced machinery, energy systems, or engineering methods, it would challenge our assumptions about the progression of human knowledge. The narrative that technological advancement follows a linear path from primitive to modern becomes questionable. Tartaria's erasure, therefore, is not just a matter of missing history. It represents a suppression of knowledge, a civilization whose achievements were too extraordinary to survive mainstream documentation. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of Tartaria's technology is its disappearance. Unlike other civilizations whose inventions evolved, influenced neighboring cultures, or were preserved through texts and oral traditions, Tartaria's methods seem almost entirely lost. Machines, blueprints, and energy systems vanish alongside the empire itself. Only fragments remain: architectural marvels, cryptic symbols, and occasional sketches hinting at what once existed. This absence raises unsettling questions. Was Tartaria's technology deliberately destroyed? Were its secrets hidden to prevent future civilizations from rediscovering them? Yet even in this erasure, traces remain. Modern researchers examining Tartarian sites find architectural anomalies, structural patterns, and artifacts that defy conventional explanation. Some speculate that the knowledge survived in hidden forms, encoded in city layouts, symbolic carvings, or the very bricks of monumental buildings. The technology of Tartaria may not have been entirely mechanical. It could have been integrated into everyday structures, subtly influencing energy distribution, water flow, or city functionality. This silent, invisible technological presence reinforces the notion of a civilization whose genius was both practical and profound, now largely forgotten. The emotional resonance of this mystery is striking. Imagine standing before a palace or tower, aware that it was built using methods no longer known, by people whose names, beliefs, and stories have been erased. Awe mixes with melancholy, admiration with frustration, as one contemplates a world where knowledge can be so advanced, yet vanish almost entirely from human memory. Tartaria's technology is not just a matter of historical curiosity. It is a testament to human capability, ingenuity, and the fragility of collective memory. As we leave the realm of architectural wonders and technological marvels, one realization becomes unavoidable. Tartaria's genius challenges everything we believe about history, innovation, and the preservation of knowledge. The buildings, machines, and urban designs are not merely relics. They are echoes of a civilization that pushed the boundaries of possibility, only to vanish from our collective understanding. The next stage of our exploration will examine the forces, natural, human, and perhaps deliberate, that may have contributed to Tartaria's sudden disappearance, as we confront the cataclysmic events and deliberate erasures that have hidden this ghost empire from view. Scattered across the landscapes once claimed by Tartaria, there are ruins buried under layers of earth, debris, and mud. Streets vanish beneath mounds of sediment. Entire neighborhoods seem swallowed by time, and buildings stand half-buried as if the land itself conspired to erase them. These phenomena, often referred to as the mud floods, form one of the most intriguing and controversial chapters in the story of Tartaria. Eyewitness accounts, architectural anomalies, and historical photographs hint at catastrophic events that may have reshaped cities overnight, burying civilizations under layers of earth in a manner that defies natural explanation. The great mud floods, whether real or embellished by legend, provide a haunting lens through which to view the mystery of a civilization almost entirely erased. Accounts of such floods first appear sporadically in 18th and 19th century newspapers and journals. Observers described sudden inundations, where entire districts were submerged under thick mud, often without warning. Streets became rivers of sludge, and houses, once thriving with life, were swallowed almost instantly. Local populations were left in shock, attempting to navigate the buried streets, to rescue belongings or loved ones, and to make sense of a catastrophe that seemed indiscriminate in its destruction. While some chroniclers attributed these events to natural causes, torrential rains, seismic shifts, or river overflow, the scale and uniformity of destruction raise questions that conventional explanations struggle to address. The physical evidence is equally compelling. Photographs from the late 19th century reveal half-buried buildings, doorways emerging only partially from mounds of earth, and streets layered with sediment several feet deep. Some structures show uniform patterns in their burial, as if the land itself rose suddenly, engulfing the lower levels while leaving upper portions intact. Modern researchers examining these ruins note anomalies in city layouts, staircases that suddenly terminate below ground, windows partially submerged, and foundations mysteriously preserved beneath layers of mud. These inconsistencies suggest something more than ordinary flooding, a sudden, large-scale, and unexplained geological event that left cities in limbo between destruction and preservation. Many theorists argue that the mud floods may have been a catalyst in the erasure of Tartaria from history. If entire neighborhoods, administrative centers, and monumental buildings were buried under mud, much of the historical record would have been literally buried along with them. Maps drawn afterward could have omitted these lost cities, while official chronicles might have overlooked or misattributed the events. In this light, the mud floods become more than natural disasters. They become instruments of historical disappearance, reshaping the physical and cultural landscape in ways that effectively erased a civilization from memory. Some researchers point to architectural clues that support this theory. Doors and windows appearing partially buried, staircases leading nowhere, and sudden changes in building levels indicate that sediment accumulated unusually quickly. In certain areas, layers of mud are perfectly horizontal, suggesting rapid deposition rather than gradual accumulation over centuries. Combined with reports of sudden inundation, these observations paint a picture of cities engulfed in a single, overwhelming event. If Tartaria's cities were buried in this manner, it would explain why monumental architecture survives only in fragments, and why written records or artifacts are scarce or misattributed to other cultures. The emotional resonance of the mud floods is striking. Imagine waking in a thriving city, only to find your home and streets swallowed overnight. Markets filled with life are now buried, cultural centers rendered invisible, and the collective memory of an entire population suddenly obscured. The catastrophe is not just physical, it is a psychological rupture, erasing social, cultural, and historical continuity. For Tartaria, such events may have been the final blow, leaving behind ruins that whisper of greatness while concealing the full story. Some theorists take the argument even further, suggesting that these floods were not entirely natural. Could they have been exacerbated or even orchestrated to hide evidence of Tartaria's advanced technology and knowledge? Certain city layouts and buried structures suggest the presence of infrastructure designed to channel or control water flow, implying an understanding of hydraulics far ahead of the era. If such systems were deliberately manipulated or destroyed, it might explain the uniformity and rapidity of destruction observed in multiple regions. The idea is unsettling. Natural disaster intertwined with deliberate erasure. A civilization buried not only by time, but possibly by design. Evidence from global parallels adds to the mystery. Across continents, similar anomalies are observed. Buildings partially buried, streets submerged, and architectural inconsistencies that defy conventional timelines. Could these events be part of a pattern? A series of cataclysms affecting multiple advanced civilizations simultaneously? While mainstream historians often dismiss such comparisons, the recurrence of these anomalies raises questions about the stability of pre-modern societies and the potential vulnerability of civilizations to sudden geological or environmental shifts. Tartaria, in this context, may have been just one of several sophisticated societies affected by forces that modern scholars struggle to fully understand. Beyond the physical and historical implications, the mud floods carry symbolic weight. They represent the fragility of human achievement, the ease with which knowledge, culture, and civilization can be obscured or lost. The ruins left behind are ghostly reminders of what once was, buildings that rise half-buried from the earth, streets that hint at former grandeur, and artifacts that peer out from layers of sediment as if calling to the present, insisting that this history not be forgotten. For Tartaria, these floods may have been both literal and metaphorical, washing away the evidence of a civilization while leaving traces that continue to spark curiosity, awe, and disbelief. The Great Mud Floods also emphasize the importance of perspective. From a modern vantage, these ruins appear as anomalies, curiosities to be cataloged or photographed. Yet, for the people who lived through them, they would have been traumatic, reshaping not just their physical environment, but their sense of identity and place. The emotional impact, fear, loss, and the bewildering sensation of being abandoned by the world mirrors the larger historical mystery. A civilization obliterated, its achievements concealed, and its memory reduced to fragments. As we continue our exploration, the mud floods provide both context and consequence. They show how a civilization of immense scale, architectural brilliance, and technological sophistication could be so thoroughly erased that modern researchers struggle to reconcile maps, ruins, and legends. Tartaria is not merely lost in theory. It is buried, submerged, and hidden in ways that challenge our understanding of history, geography, and human capability. The next stage of our journey will focus on the tangible remnants of this lost empire. Coins, stamps, medallions, and symbols that survived despite centuries of erasure, hinting at governance, culture, and a society whose story is only beginning to emerge from the mud. Among the scattered remnants of Tartaria, one of the most tangible yet perplexing forms of evidence lies in small, seemingly ordinary objects. Coins, stamps, medallions, and symbols etched into architecture and artifacts. At first glance, they appear mundane, easy to dismiss as relics of minor or transient cultures. But upon closer examination, they reveal a story far more complex. A civilization whose identity, governance, and cultural sophistication persist only through these enigmatic artifacts. Each coin, each stamped image, is a whisper from a forgotten empire, hinting at a society whose reach and organization rivaled the greatest powers of its era. Coins provide a particularly striking glimpse into Tartaria's past. Unlike contemporary currency from neighboring regions, some Tartarian coins display intricate designs, precise inscriptions, and symbology not found elsewhere. Certain coins feature elaborate depictions of rulers, buildings, or even machinery, suggesting a civilization proud of its achievements and eager to commemorate them. The precision of minting, the uniformity of size, and the artistic sophistication all point to a highly organized system of production, one that would require infrastructure, skilled artisans, and centralized authority. These small, metallic discs become miniature windows into a civilization otherwise almost erased, offering clues about leadership, trade, and societal priorities. Stamps and medallions add another layer of intrigue. Some bear intricate geometric designs, mysterious insignias, or allegorical imagery that defies conventional interpretation. These objects are not merely decorative. They appear to encode information about governance, status, or cultural values. Certain symbols recur across artifacts separated by hundreds of miles, implying a standardized system of communication or representation. This consistency, much like the architectural parallels in distant cities, hints at a civilization with advanced administrative and artistic capabilities. Tartaria was not an ad hoc society. It was a coherent, sophisticated culture capable of spreading its influence across vast territories. The challenge lies in interpretation. Scholars attempting to decode these symbols often hit dead ends. Some hypothesize that the motifs are purely decorative, intended to impress rather than inform. Others suggest esoteric or spiritual significance, hinting at a belief system lost to time. The uncertainty itself fuels the mystery. We can see the artifacts, measure their craftsmanship, and trace their distribution, yet the full meaning remains tantalizingly out of reach. Every coin or stamp is a fragment, a message in a bottle cast across centuries, awaiting discovery by those willing to read between the lines. Some examples are particularly extraordinary. Coins depicting intricate machinery, domed buildings, or architectural layouts resembling Tartarian cities suggest an empire confident in its technological and cultural achievements. Stamps and medallions with recurring geometric patterns hint at symbolic language or possibly a system of knowledge preserved through imagery rather than written word. Collectively, these artifacts suggest a civilization deeply aware of its identity, yet one whose story was deliberately obscured or lost after cataclysmic events like the mud floods or social upheaval. The emotional impact of these artifacts is profound. Imagine holding a coin minted hundreds of years ago by a ruler whose name has vanished from history, or examining a stamp bearing a symbol that once held meaning to an entire society. There is awe in connecting with the past, but also melancholy. We grasp the sophistication of a culture nearly obliterated, its people erased from memory, its governance and knowledge surviving only in fragments. These small objects carry the weight of centuries, tangible reminders of what was and what has been nearly forgotten. In some cases, Tartarian coins and stamps appear to contradict accepted historical narratives. Where European or Asian empires of the same era show linear progress in design, metallurgical technique, and symbolism, Tartarian artifacts often display advanced features centuries ahead of their supposed time. Some coins exhibit precise metallurgy and engraving, while certain medallions suggest mechanical or energy concepts entirely absent from contemporary knowledge. These anomalies raise questions not just about Tartaria's technological capability, but about the forces that suppressed its memory. Why would an empire capable of such achievements vanish almost entirely, leaving only cryptic symbols behind? Beyond coins and stamps, symbols etched into architecture and artifacts offer further clues. Geometric patterns, mysterious alphabets, and repeated motifs appear across buildings, walls, and public spaces, echoing the symbolic designs on smaller objects. Some researchers propose that these motifs may have encoded practical knowledge, construction methods, energy systems, or administrative instructions, while others argue for spiritual or ceremonial significance. Whatever their purpose, these symbols reinforce the sense of a civilization intentionally sophisticated, with layers of knowledge embedded in both its material culture and architectural legacy. The distribution of these artifacts also paints a fascinating picture. Coins and stamps have been found hundreds or even thousands of miles apart, suggesting extensive trade networks and centralized production. Architectural symbols similarly recur in distant cities, implying a shared cultural or administrative system across vast territories. Tartaria was not a loosely connected patchwork of settlements. It was a coherent civilization capable of organizing, communicating, and standardizing its culture on a continental scale. This observation challenges mainstream history, forcing us to question why such a civilization is virtually absent from textbooks and archives. The artifacts also hint at deliberate erasure. Many coins, stamps, and medallions bear names, insignias, or designs later overwritten, recut, or misattributed. Buildings with matching symbols may have been reassigned to other cultures, their history rewritten to fit emerging empires' narratives. Tartaria, in this light, is not just lost. It has been actively removed from historical consciousness, leaving only fragments that continue to provoke curiosity and wonder. As we hold these objects, one cannot help but feel the presence of the people who made them. Artisans, engravers, rulers, and citizens of Tartaria invested skill, intention, and identity into each artifact. Though their names may be forgotten, their work survives, offering glimpses of a civilization erased yet stubbornly persistent. Coins, stamps, and symbols are more than historical evidence. They are echoes of human ambition, culture, and creativity, whispering across centuries from a world almost entirely lost. The journey through these small but potent remnants leads naturally to the next phase of exploration. The maps, monuments, and architectural marvels that, taken together with coins and symbols, form a cohesive picture of Tartaria's grandeur. By connecting these fragments, we begin to trace the outlines of a civilization whose achievements were extraordinary, whose erasure was deliberate, and whose mysteries continue to challenge our understanding of human history. Beneath the mists of history and the soil of forgotten lands lie the remnants of Tartaria cities, vast urban centers that once teemed with life, now obscured, misattributed, or buried entirely. Travelers of the 17th and 18th centuries occasionally glimpsed these metropolises, describing streets wider than any in Europe, buildings that stretched skyward, and squares of monumental proportions. Yet, despite these accounts, the cities vanished from mainstream historical records, leaving only traces in maps, sketches, and fragments of architecture. These lost cities are both physical and symbolic representations of Tartaria itself, grand achievements swallowed by time, disaster, and deliberate erasure. The sheer scale of Tartarian cities is staggering. Contemporary reports speak of urban centers spanning dozens, if not hundreds, of square miles, with layouts meticulously planned for governance, commerce, and culture. Streets followed geometric precision, often aligned with celestial markers, while central squares hosted civic, religious, and administrative functions in ways that suggest advanced urban design. Palaces, government buildings, and marketplaces formed organized clusters, interconnected by wide avenues and fortified walls. The cities were designed not merely for habitation, but as expressions of power, knowledge, and aesthetic vision. Evidence from surviving photographs and architectural studies confirms these descriptions. In certain regions of Eurasia, half-buried buildings rise from layers of sediment, hinting at extensive urban development beneath. Staircases lead to nowhere, windows appear partially submerged, and street layouts are preserved under layers of earth, as if the ground itself had swallowed entire districts. The mud floods, combined with natural erosion and the passage of centuries, have transformed once great cities into ghostly ruins, yet their scale and organization remain unmistakable. What makes these lost cities particularly mysterious is their uniformity across vast distances. Architectural styles, urban layouts, and even street widths are remarkably consistent in cities separated by hundreds or thousands of miles. Scholars often find themselves questioning how such distant settlements could exhibit nearly identical design principles without centralized knowledge or communication. This uniformity hints at a civilization with an empire-wide system of governance and standardization, one capable of ensuring cohesion across immense territories, a feat almost unimaginable for the era. Historical documents provide tantalizing glimpses into daily life within these cities. Markets bustling with exotic goods, public forums where philosophical debates unfolded, and civic ceremonies celebrating technological or artistic achievements are occasionally referenced in travelers' diaries. Yet these accounts are fragmented and inconsistent, as though the chroniclers themselves feared recording too much. The sense of urgency, of glimpsing wonders on the brink of disappearance, permeates these writings, leaving modern readers with both awe and an unsettling feeling of loss. The disappearance of Tartarian cities raises profound questions. How could settlements of such sophistication vanish almost entirely from history? While natural disasters like mud floods, earthquakes, or climate shifts may have played a role, the scale of erasure suggests human intervention as well. Later empires expanding into Tartarian territories may have intentionally obliterated or assimilated these urban centers, rewriting maps and histories to consolidate power. The result is a civilization simultaneously monumental and invisible, its cities buried, its achievements overlooked, and its legacy scattered across time and space. Artifacts found within these lost cities further illuminate their mystery. Coins, stamps, tools, and architectural fragments point to a culture that prized craftsmanship, knowledge, and organization. Yet the lack of continuous records means archaeologists often struggle to attribute these items with certainty. Buildings with advanced engineering techniques, evidence of complex water management systems, and remnants of monumental public spaces suggest a civilization that mastered both the practical and the aesthetic, achievements almost entirely absent from conventional historical narratives. Some Tartarian cities appear to have had energy systems or technological innovations integrated into their design. Certain foundations suggest mechanisms for distributing water, managing temperature, or even generating energy, concepts seemingly centuries ahead of recognized societies. If true, these innovations would not only reflect extraordinary technical knowledge, but also suggest a civilization capable of sustaining vast, organized urban populations under conditions that modern engineers would find challenging. The lost cities, then, are more than architectural marvels. They are evidence of a technological and social sophistication erased from mainstream memory. The emotional impact of these revelations is profound. Walking through a partially buried city, imagining the lives of its citizens, the daily rituals, the governance, and the culture, evokes a sense of awe intertwined with melancholy. These are cities where human ambition, creativity, and organization reached extraordinary heights. Yet they vanished, leaving modern observers with ruins, fragments, and whispers. The lost cities of Tartaria challenge our understanding of civilization itself, forcing us to reconsider the fragility of human achievement and the forces that determine what survives in collective memory. Even the process of discovering these cities is laden with intrigue. Hidden beneath layers of sediment, obscured by later construction, or misclassified as belonging to other cultures, Tartaria's urban centers demand careful observation and analysis. Maps provide faint hints, photographs preserve glimpses, and fragments of architecture whisper of grandeur. The effort to piece together these cities is akin to reconstructing a ghost, a civilization that refuses to remain entirely hidden, yet evades full comprehension. Each discovery, no matter how small, is a testament to human persistence, curiosity, and the drive to uncover forgotten truths. In examining Tartaria's lost cities, we begin to see the outline of a civilization both extraordinary and elusive. Their existence is undeniable, yet their history remains largely untold. These urban landscapes, buried beneath mud, time, and deliberate suppression, offer compelling evidence of Tartaria's scale, sophistication, and organization. They are physical manifestations of a society whose story challenges the accepted narratives of human history, a civilization whose grandeur persists in ruins, artifacts, and the faint traces that continue to inspire awe and curiosity today. As we move forward, the next step in our journey will explore the people of Tartaria themselves, their lives, culture, and a social fabric that allowed such cities to flourish. By understanding the citizens behind the architecture, we begin to grasp not just what Tartaria built, but why it mattered, and how a civilization of such brilliance could vanish almost entirely from the historical record. To understand Tartaria is not only to study its monuments, maps, and artifacts, but also to glimpse the lives of the people who inhabited this vast, sophisticated empire. Amid the architectural marvels, technological innovations, and sprawling cities, ordinary citizens, artisans, merchants, scholars, and laborers moved through daily routines that reflected both the sophistication and the mystery of their society. Their existence, largely erased from official history, emerges only in scattered accounts, artistic depictions, and the traces embedded in architecture and artifacts. By examining these fragments, we can imagine the rhythm, culture, and emotional landscape of a civilization almost entirely lost. One striking feature of daily life in Tartaria appears to have been social organization. Cities were meticulously planned, with residential quarters, markets, administrative centers, and religious or ceremonial spaces carefully delineated. Families likely lived in multi-story homes built with precision brickwork, incorporating both functional and aesthetic elements. Streets, squares, and communal spaces facilitated not only commerce and governance, but also social interaction, creating a fabric of life that blended utility, culture, and beauty. The citizens of Tartaria were not merely surviving. They were participating in a society designed to nurture knowledge, collaboration, and civic pride. Trade and commerce formed a vital part of daily existence. Markets bustled with goods from distant lands, hinting at extensive trade networks that connected Tartaria with neighboring regions. Exotic spices, metals, textiles, and perhaps even machinery suggest both local ingenuity and a cosmopolitan economy. Artisans and craftsmen contributed to this system by producing coins, decorative objects, and architectural components of extraordinary sophistication. The economy, inferred from surviving artifacts and city layouts, indicates an organized and advanced system capable of sustaining vast populations and supporting monumental construction projects. Education and cultural pursuits were likely central to Tartarian life. Architectural designs, symbolic inscriptions, and surviving artifacts suggest a population that valued knowledge, art, and technical skill. Children and apprentices may have studied mathematics, geometry, and engineering, contributing to the construction of the empire's cities and monumental buildings. Artists, sculptors, and engravers would have honed their craft under patronage, creating objects that combine practical use with aesthetic sophistication. Public spaces may have hosted performances, debates, or civic gatherings, reflecting a society that prized intellectual engagement as much as material accomplishment. Religion and ritual also appear intertwined with everyday life. Many Tartarian structures incorporate symbolic motifs, geometric patterns, and ceremonial spaces, suggesting spiritual or philosophical significance. Temples, towers, and public squares may have served as focal points for communal worship, seasonal celebrations, or civic rituals. These practices likely reinforced social cohesion, linking citizens to shared values and collective identity while integrating spiritual awareness with civic responsibility. The presence of symbolic carvings, medallions, and inscriptions in domestic and public spaces indicates a culture where ritual, symbolism, and art permeated daily existence. The physical labor of building and maintaining such a civilization cannot be understated. Laborers and engineers moved massive stones, constructed complex machinery, and maintained water management systems. The scale and precision of Tartaria's architecture suggest a workforce skilled in engineering, masonry, and hydraulics coordinated across vast distances. Unlike in less centralized societies, this labor was organized, deliberate, and highly efficient, implying administrative sophistication and social structures capable of mobilizing large groups for common purpose. Nutrition, clothing, and domestic life also hint at the empire's sophistication. Surviving artifacts suggest the use of durable materials for clothing and household items, while urban planning implies access to water, sanitation, and food distribution systems that supported dense populations. The combination of technological capability, urban organization, and cultural expression points to daily life that was not only functional, but enriched by artistic, intellectual, and civic engagement. Citizens lived in a world where practicality, beauty, and knowledge intersected, creating a society extraordinary for its time. Yet despite this vibrancy, the citizens of Tartaria would have faced profound uncertainties. Natural disasters such as the mud floods, political upheaval, or invasions from emerging empires may have threatened the stability of their cities. The emotional landscape of daily life, therefore, combined achievement and wonder with fear, resilience, and adaptation. The traces left behind, artifacts, symbolic carvings, and partially buried structures, capture both the brilliance and vulnerability of a civilization on the brink of erasure. Stories passed down through traveler accounts, sketches, and oral traditions hint at resilience and ingenuity in the face of adversity. Citizens adapted to changing landscapes, repaired buildings, and maintained social cohesion despite catastrophic events. Their knowledge of engineering, construction, and urban planning allowed them to survive environmental challenges that might have overwhelmed less organized societies. These glimpses reveal a population both extraordinary in skill and profoundly human in experience, navigating the tension between daily life and the extraordinary scale of their civilization. The emotional resonance of these glimpses into daily life is significant. We are confronted with the humanity of a society often reduced to ruins or speculation. Artisans who carefully engraved coins, families who moved through grand streets, and laborers who raised monumental buildings all existed in a reality simultaneously magnificent and precarious. Their ambitions, fears, and achievements resonate across centuries, reminding us that history is not only the story of empires, but also of the people who inhabit them. Tartaria's erasure, therefore, is both physical and emotional. The loss of cities and knowledge is intertwined with the disappearance of the human stories that brought them to life. As we consider daily life in Tartaria, one realization emerges. The civilization was sophisticated, resilient, and culturally rich, yet almost entirely absent from conventional history. Understanding the citizens and their experiences provides context for the architectural and technological marvels we have explored, transforming abstract achievements into lived reality. These human elements, the laborers, scholars, merchants, and families, form the emotional core of Tartaria's story, grounding the mystery in real lives, aspirations, and resilience. Our journey now moves from the personal to the political. Having glimpsed the people of Tartaria, we turn to the rulers and governing structures that enabled such a civilization to flourish. How did leadership function in this lost empire? What forces guided its expansion, construction, and social organization? By examining governance, hierarchy, and authority, we can understand how an empire of such scale operated and why its sudden disappearance continues to puzzle historians and researchers alike. To understand Tartaria is to confront the enigma of its rulers, leaders whose authority spanned vast territories, yet whose names, achievements, and even existence have largely vanished from mainstream historical records. Unlike the well-documented monarchs of Europe or Asia, Tartarian leaders remain shrouded in mystery, known only through fragmented accounts, artifacts, architectural inscriptions, and symbolic representations. Their power, however, is evident in the cities, monumental buildings, and standardized systems of governance that endured across immense distances. By examining these rulers, we glimpse the human architects of a civilization whose grandeur defies the conventional timeline of history. The first striking aspect of Tartarian rulership is its scale and scope. Leaders governed territories that stretched across continents, uniting disparate regions under a cohesive administrative system. Architectural uniformity, standardization of coinage, and recurring symbols suggest centralized authority capable of coordinating vast construction projects, trade networks, and urban planning. Unlike feudal or fragmented systems seen elsewhere, Tartaria's leadership appears to have exercised both practical and visionary oversight, ensuring cohesion while fostering technological, cultural, and artistic advancement. These rulers were not merely figureheads. They were organizers, visionaries, and custodians of a civilization extraordinary in its sophistication. Evidence of their authority is embedded in material culture. Coins and medallions frequently depict rulers' likenesses, insignias, or symbolic representations of power. Some architectural facades bear carvings that suggest hierarchical structures, ceremonial importance, or even allegorical portrayals of governance. In certain cities, palaces and administrative buildings dominate the skyline, hinting at centralized power and the capacity to mobilize resources on an unprecedented scale. These traces suggest a civilization deeply aware of leadership, hierarchy, and the role of authority in shaping society, even if the textual records that might confirm these facts have been lost. Historical sketches and early photographs provide further clues. Some depictions show rulers in elaborate ceremonial dress, seated amid monumental architecture or presiding over civic events. While such images are rare and sometimes ambiguous, they convey a sense of sophistication, ritualized authority, and deliberate self-representation. Tartarian leaders appear to have been conscious of their legacy, embedding their presence not only in governance, but also in art, symbolism, and city planning. Their ambition was both political and cultural, an effort to leave an enduring imprint on the land and the collective memory of their people. Yet the very obscurity of these rulers raises profound questions. How could a civilization capable of governing vast territories, constructing monumental architecture, and standardizing its culture vanish with so little trace of its leadership? One possibility is deliberate erasure. Later empires expanding into Tartarian lands may have sought to obscure previous governance, rewriting history to consolidate their own authority. Palaces may have been repurposed, inscriptions removed or misinterpreted, and rulers' identities replaced with new narratives. The erasure of leadership, therefore, is intertwined with the broader disappearance of Tartaria itself, leaving only tantalizing fragments to hint at the civilization's former glory. The organizational sophistication of Tartaria also speaks to the capabilities of its rulers. Urban planning, technological innovations, and resource management suggest a leadership deeply engaged with both strategic and practical concerns. Water distribution systems, road networks, and standardized architecture indicate foresight and coordination on a continental scale. Such governance required not only technical knowledge, but also social intelligence, the ability to manage large populations, integrate diverse regions, and sustain cultural coherence across vast distances. These rulers were, in many ways, architects of civilization itself, balancing the human, environmental, and technological dimensions of empire building. Religion and ritual likely played a role in reinforcing authority. Temples, ceremonial spaces, and symbolic carvings suggest that rulers integrated spiritual or philosophical frameworks into governance. Ceremonial practices may have legitimized power, strengthened social cohesion, and linked political authority to cultural or cosmic principles. By intertwining ritual with administration, Tartarian leaders could maintain order, inspire loyalty, and cultivate a sense of shared purpose among citizens. The spiritual dimension of rulership adds depth to our understanding, suggesting a civilization where power was not only exercised, but also justified through culture, symbolism, and belief. Yet leadership was not solely ceremonial or symbolic. Surviving artifacts hint at rulers actively directing technological and architectural projects. Coins and medallions sometimes depict machinery, energy devices, or architectural schematics, suggesting rulers' involvement in promoting innovation and technological advancement. They were patrons of knowledge, directing the construction of cities, bridges, and monumental buildings that showcased both practical utility and aesthetic vision. The rulers' ambitions, therefore, were multidimensional, encompassing governance, culture, and the material expression of power. The disappearance of Tartarian rulers leaves an emotional imprint. Imagine the citizens who once lived under their guidance. Thriving cities, monumental projects, and daily life orchestrated under the watchful eye of leadership suddenly stripped of recognition. The erasure is both political and personal, obscuring not only historical facts, but also human stories of ambition, governance, and responsibility. These rulers were not mythic or abstract. They were individuals whose decisions shaped society, whose vision enabled greatness, and whose disappearance compounds the mystery of Tartaria's vanishing. Speculation about Tartaria's leaders also invites larger questions about power, memory, and history. Were these rulers victims of natural disasters, wars, or deliberate historical suppression? Did their civilizations fall to environmental catastrophe, internal collapse, or conquest by emerging empires? The lack of records transforms their legacy into a puzzle. Rulers whose accomplishments are tangible in stone, metal, and urban layouts, yet nearly absent from the written word. The tension between their visible impact and historical invisibility fuels the allure and mystery of Tartaria, challenging assumptions about how civilizations endure in collective memory. In examining Tartaria's rulers, we gain insight not only into governance, but also into the resilience and vulnerability of human ambition. These were leaders capable of directing monumental construction, managing vast populations, and fostering culture and innovation. Yet even such power could not protect their civilization from erasure. The juxtaposition of extraordinary capability and sudden disappearance highlights the fragility of human achievement and the importance of preserving knowledge, culture, and historical memory. As we move beyond leadership, the next section will explore the military forces that supported the empire, the armies, strategies, and defenses that enabled Tartaria to maintain control over vast territories. Understanding the empire's military organization will illuminate not only the practical mechanisms of power, but also the human dimension of defense, sacrifice, and the threats that may have contributed to Tartaria's ultimate disappearance. Behind every great empire lies the machinery of defense, the soldiers who protect cities, enforce rule, and confront external threats. Tartaria, with its vast territories, monumental architecture, and sophisticated urban centers, must have relied on armies both disciplined and formidable. Yet, unlike the armies of Europe or Asia, Tartaria's defenders remain largely invisible in historical accounts, known only through cryptic references, scattered sketches, and the remnants of fortifications. By piecing together these clues, we begin to glimpse the military might that safeguarded a civilization now almost entirely erased from memory. Fortifications provide the first hint of Tartaria's military sophistication. Massive walls, towers, and gates appear throughout surviving urban ruins, suggesting defense strategies adapted to both human and environmental threats. The scale of these structures implies coordinated labor, advanced engineering, and the ability to mobilize resources efficiently, all hallmarks of a highly organized military system. Some fortresses reveal intricate internal layouts, including bastions, escape routes, and vantage points, indicating strategic planning far beyond what contemporary historians might expect from a pre-modern society. Weapons and equipment further illustrate the capabilities of Tartarian soldiers. Artifacts resembling spears, blades, and early firearms have been discovered, some featuring craftsmanship that suggests both practicality and ceremonial significance. Certain weapons exhibit precision metallurgy, designs for efficiency, and even mechanisms hinting at experimentation with energy or mechanical advantage. While definitive records are scarce, these findings suggest that Tartaria's military was not only functional, but potentially innovative, capable of defending sprawling urban centers against diverse threats. Troop organization appears to have been highly structured. Historical illustrations and surviving architectural evidence hint at coordinated formations, barracks, and drill grounds. Urban layouts often include wide avenues and open squares, potentially serving dual purposes: civic activity and military maneuvering. Such planning implies a society in which defense was integrated into daily life, and where soldiers were trained not only to fight, but to maintain order, support infrastructure, and participate in civic life. This dual role highlights the sophistication of Tartaria's social and military systems, blurring the line between citizen and defender. Reports from travelers occasionally describe military parades, ceremonial displays, or fortified processions, emphasizing both strength and pageantry. Leaders, as suggested in earlier sections, likely utilize these demonstrations to assert authority, inspire loyalty, and project power across vast territories. Soldiers were not anonymous functionaries. They were visible symbols of the empire's organization, discipline, and technological capability. Their presence reinforced governance and deterred both internal rebellion and external aggression, a silent testament to the cohesion and reach of Tartarian authority. Strategic positioning of Tartarian armies also speaks to environmental intelligence. Cities were often situated near rivers, natural barriers, or elevated terrain, suggesting that military planners took geography into account to optimize defense. Roads connecting cities, bridges, and watchtowers indicate integrated logistics, allowing rapid troop movement and effective communication across the empire. This combination of geography, infrastructure, and military organization hints at a civilization capable of sustaining both urban and rural security while projecting power over immense territories. The emotional landscape of Tartarian defenders is also worth imagining. Soldiers faced enormous responsibility, guarding not only their cities but the achievements of generations. They witnessed monumental construction projects, participated in sophisticated urban life, and confronted environmental disasters such as the mud floods. Their courage, discipline, and sacrifice were vital to preserving the society, yet their stories, like so much else in Tartaria, have largely vanished. We are left with ruins, sketches, and symbolic traces, echoes of their presence, perseverance, and human endeavor. One intriguing possibility is that Tartaria's military employed technologies or methods lost to modern historians. Certain fortifications suggest the use of machinery, energy devices, or architectural designs enhancing defensive capabilities. While definitive proof remains elusive, the combination of advanced city planning, large-scale construction, and strategic positioning implies a military capable of leveraging both technology and organization in unprecedented ways. Tartaria's armies may have been among the most sophisticated of their time, blending human skill with innovations now largely forgotten. The military also played a role in maintaining the empire's cohesion. Soldiers were likely responsible for protecting trade routes, enforcing governance, and assisting in civil projects. This integration of military and civic responsibilities reinforced the stability of Tartarian society, ensuring that infrastructure, urban planning, and social order were maintained even in times of external threat or natural disaster. The soldier's role, therefore, was not merely combative, but essential to the functioning of the empire itself. Yet, despite these strengths, Tartaria's armies could not prevent the civilization's eventual erasure. Natural disasters, internal collapse, or deliberate human actions may have overwhelmed even the most organized and technologically capable forces. The sudden disappearance of cities, leaders, and citizens hints at a combination of factors that military might alone could not counter. This juxtaposition, extraordinary preparation, and ultimate vulnerability underscores the fragility of even the most sophisticated civilizations and adds emotional weight to the story of Tartaria's decline. As we leave the realm of military organization, the next section will explore the empire's mysterious technologies in greater depth, from energy systems to mechanical innovations, and consider how these advances might have supported both defense and daily life. By examining Tartaria's lost technologies, we continue to uncover the layers of ingenuity that made this civilization extraordinary, while also probing the reasons why such knowledge vanished from collective memory. One of the most tantalizing aspects of Tartaria lies in its technology, innovations and engineering feats that, if understood fully, could challenge conventional timelines of human progress. Unlike the well-documented inventions of recognized civilizations, Tartarian technology survives primarily in fragments, partially buried buildings, intricate machinery depicted on coins or medallions, and architectural anomalies that hint at systems far ahead of their supposed era. These remnants suggest that Tartaria was not only culturally sophisticated, but also technically advanced, capable of feats that remain mysterious to modern historians and engineers alike. Architectural structures provide the first clues. Certain Tartarian buildings, particularly monumental public works, exhibit evidence of advanced engineering. Massive domes, arches, and multi-story constructions appear precisely calculated, as if builders understood principles of physics and materials science beyond the knowledge commonly attributed to the period. In some cases, foundations suggest hidden mechanisms, possibly for energy distribution, temperature regulation, or structural stabilization. The sheer scale and precision of these constructions imply not only skilled labor, but also a systematic approach to technological knowledge, preserved through design and craftsmanship. Artifacts support these architectural hints. Coins, medallions, and decorative panels occasionally depict complex machinery, devices resembling generators or intricate mechanical components. These depictions, while symbolic in some cases, imply an awareness of systems and devices beyond the mechanical simplicity typical of the era. Some historians speculate that these illustrations encode practical knowledge, serving as blueprints for devices lost to time. The possibility that Tartaria employed functional energy systems, even rudimentary ones, elevates the civilization from mere historical curiosity to a potential center of innovation. Water management offers another dimension of technological sophistication. Urban layouts, canals, aqueducts, and drainage systems indicate a civilization highly attentive to environmental control. Certain cities appear to have incorporated advanced hydraulic engineering, distributing water efficiently across vast urban areas. Staircases, channels, and partially buried conduits hint at mechanisms for controlling flow, regulating pressure, or mitigating flood risks. In light of the mud floods, these systems may have been both practical and experimental, designed to protect urban centers from environmental catastrophe while supporting the daily life of citizens. Some Tartarian structures display peculiar features that modern researchers struggle to explain. Uniformly buried levels, staircases leading to no apparent destination, and precise alignments with celestial markers suggest knowledge of geology, astronomy, or perhaps even energy principles. While mainstream archaeology often attributes these features to coincidence or natural settlement, the consistency across multiple sites hints at a deliberate understanding of natural and possibly energetic forces. Tartaria's builders may have blended architecture with science in ways that remain invisible to contemporary observers, leaving us with ruins that challenge conventional interpretation. The combination of symbolic and functional evidence suggests that Tartarian technology was intertwined with governance, culture, and daily life. Devices or systems represented in artifacts may have served civic purposes, aided construction, or even enhanced societal organization. Coins and medallions depicting machinery, when paired with urban layouts, hint at integrated networks for energy, water, or communications. Such integration suggests that technology was not peripheral but central to Tartarian society, enabling both monumental achievements and everyday functionality. The emotional resonance of this lost technology is striking. Imagine a civilization capable of harnessing energy, manipulating water, or building multi-story structures with precision, yet whose knowledge disappears almost entirely. The sense of wonder is accompanied by melancholy, as we recognize human ingenuity and achievement erased from collective memory. Each artifact, each architectural anomaly, becomes a ghostly testament to intellectual and practical mastery, provoking awe while reminding us of the fragility of knowledge. Speculation about Tartarian technology often extends beyond architecture and urban planning. Certain anomalies in maps, diagrams, and historical accounts suggest the possible existence of advanced transportation systems, energy devices, or mechanisms for mass construction. While evidence remains fragmentary and controversial, the consistency of hints across regions fuels intrigue. Could Tartaria have harnessed energy sources or mechanical principles lost to history? Were their buildings and cities designed to function as integrated systems rather than isolated structures? These questions elevate Tartaria from mysterious empire to a tantalizing enigma of technological achievement. Ritual and symbolism may also have played a role in technological expression. Many artifacts combine aesthetic, spiritual, and practical elements, suggesting that Tartarian innovation was integrated with cultural and ceremonial practice. Machines or devices may have been represented symbolically to encode knowledge, while ceremonial use reinforced social cohesion and preserved understanding across generations. In this light, Tartaria's technology was as much a cultural artifact as a functional tool, blending science, art, and belief in ways that remain elusive to modern interpretation. The mystery deepens when considering why this knowledge vanished. Natural disasters, deliberate erasure, and societal collapse may have destroyed records, blueprints, and practitioners. Mud floods, invasions, and assimilation into neighboring empires could have disrupted the transmission of technical knowledge, leaving behind only fragments embedded in surviving artifacts and architecture. The erasure of technological memory adds a poignant layer to Tartaria's story, a civilization capable of extraordinary achievement reduced to whispers, ruins, and tantalizing traces. Exploring Tartaria's technology also highlights the human dimension of curiosity, ingenuity, and ambition. Citizens and rulers invested skill, experimentation, and vision into constructions and devices whose purposes we can only infer. Their efforts reflect a society confident in its capabilities, yet aware of the fragility of its achievements. The loss of this knowledge is not merely a historical gap. It is a reminder of the impermanence of human mastery and the vulnerability of civilizations to time, disaster, and deliberate suppression. As we conclude our exploration of technology, we see Tartaria not just as a civilization of grand architecture and lost cities, but as a hub of ingenuity, experimentation, and practical intelligence. Its buildings, artifacts, and symbols bear witness to achievements that challenge conventional historical timelines and invite reflection on the forces that erase or preserve knowledge. The next step in our journey will examine Tartaria's mysterious interactions with neighboring empires, alliances, conflicts, and trade networks that both connected and isolated this enigmatic civilization, shaping its ultimate fate. Tartaria's influence extended far beyond its cities and borders, reaching into distant lands through networks of trade, diplomacy, and sometimes covert conflict. While maps and artifacts hint at a civilization of remarkable sophistication, the human and political dimension of its interactions remains tantalizingly obscure. Merchants, emissaries, and soldiers carried not only goods, but also ideas, culture, and technology, weaving Tartaria into a web of connections that shaped its destiny and ultimately contributed to its mysterious disappearance. Trade was the lifeblood of Tartaria's economy and influence. Surviving coins, medallions, and accounts of travelers suggest extensive exchange networks spanning vast distances. Exotic goods, rare metals, and intricate artifacts moved along these routes, connecting distant cities and reinforcing the empire's cohesion. Beyond commerce, these exchanges facilitated cultural and technological diffusion, spreading architectural styles, symbolic language, and possibly even advanced engineering concepts across territories that today seem disconnected. Tartaria's wealth and knowledge flowed along these networks, yet the historical record obscures the full extent of these interactions. Alliances with neighboring powers further complicate the picture. Tartarian rulers appear to have engaged in diplomacy, forging treaties, trade agreements, and strategic partnerships that extended the empire's influence without direct conquest. These alliances may have allowed the sharing of resources, protection of trade routes, and stabilization of borders. At the same time, Tartaria's interactions were not purely peaceful. Rivalries, misunderstandings, and hidden conflicts suggest that its leaders navigated a complex political landscape where survival depended on both strength and subtle negotiation. The shadow conflicts of Tartaria remain particularly elusive. Some evidence points to clandestine military campaigns, border skirmishes, or sabotage targeting rival regions. Architectural anomalies, fortifications, hidden passages, and strategically placed towers hint at preparation for defense or covert operations. Coins and medallions sometimes depict symbols interpreted as martial or political statements, suggesting a civilization acutely aware of both overt and covert threats. These hints reveal a dual reality. Tartaria engaged in both open display of power and subtle, behind-the-scenes maneuvers to protect its interests. The human dimension of these interactions is striking. Traders, soldiers, and diplomats move through cities and borderlands, carrying intelligence, negotiating agreements, and sometimes risking their lives in dangerous encounters. Their experiences, often invisible in mainstream history, reflect the stakes of living within a civilization whose reach and complexity invited both opportunity and peril. The intricate network of commerce, alliances, and shadow conflicts suggests a society as politically sophisticated as it was technologically and culturally advanced. Geography played a crucial role in shaping these interactions. Tartaria's cities, often situated near rivers, trade routes, and natural barriers, allowed rulers to control the flow of goods, information, and military forces. Roads, bridges, and fortified checkpoints enabled both defense and economic efficiency, creating a system in which political, military, and commercial considerations were inseparable. The combination of geographic intelligence and strategic planning demonstrates that Tartaria's leadership understood the delicate balance between expansion, protection, and resource management. Artifacts offer additional glimpses into these dynamics. Some medallions, coins, and architectural symbols appear to encode messages about alliances, conflicts, or trade partnerships. While their meaning remains speculative, patterns emerge suggesting a civilization deeply concerned with communication and influence. Symbolism may have served diplomatic purposes, broadcasting authority, signaling loyalty, or warning rivals of Tartaria's reach. These objects transform seemingly mundane artifacts into instruments of political strategy, revealing the subtle interplay of power, trade, and diplomacy. The emotional impact of these networks is profound. Traders navigating vast distances faced dangers from natural obstacles, bandits, and hostile powers, yet also acted as carriers of culture, technology, and knowledge. Diplomats balanced negotiation and intimidation, forging agreements that could preserve peace or provoke conflict. Soldiers maintained order, defended borders, and sometimes engaged in shadow conflict whose details are now lost. Together, these individuals shaped the fate of a civilization whose achievements we glimpse only in fragments, yet whose human stories resonate across centuries. Despite this sophistication, Tartaria's connections could not prevent its decline. Trade networks, alliances, and military coordination were vulnerable to disruption from natural disasters, social upheaval, or deliberate intervention by external powers. Mud floods, invasions, or political manipulation may have severed these lifelines, leaving cities isolated, knowledge fragmented, and artifacts scattered. The same networks that once enabled prosperity could not fully protect the civilization from erasure, highlighting the fragile interplay between human ingenuity and historical forces beyond control. The patterns of interaction also hint at the deliberate rewriting of history. Later powers may have absorbed Tartaria's trade networks, repurposed its cities, and claimed its technologies as their own. Alliances were erased, conflicts obscured, and achievements misattributed, leaving a historical vacuum in which Tartaria becomes a ghostly presence. This manipulation of collective memory underscores the empire's disappearance not only from physical reality, but also from historical consciousness. The empire was not only conquered by time, but also by narratives shaped to erase its existence. Understanding Tartaria's trade, alliances, and shadow conflicts enriches our perception of the civilization. It was not a static, isolated culture. It was a dynamic entity engaging with its neighbors, navigating threats, and extending its influence through complex networks of commerce, diplomacy, and military readiness. The traces left behind, artifacts, architectural remnants, and fragmentary accounts, reveal a civilization attuned to both opportunity and danger, yet ultimately vulnerable to forces that remain partly mysterious. As we move forward, the next section will explore Tartaria's cultural and artistic achievements, examining how this lost civilization expressed identity, power, and innovation through art, symbolism, and monumental design. By investigating the empire's cultural legacy, we gain insight into the human imagination, aesthetic sensibilities, and societal values that sustained a civilization now largely erased from memory. To understand Tartaria is to step into a world where art and architecture were not merely functional, but the very essence of civilization. Buildings, monuments, and public spaces were designed with extraordinary attention to proportion, symbolism, and cultural expression, reflecting a society that celebrated both human ingenuity and aesthetic vision. Art was not a luxury. It was the medium through which the empire communicated identity, power, and philosophical ideas. Every facade, column, and carving tells a story, offering glimpses into the soul of a civilization that history has tried to erase. Architectural mastery is among the most striking features of Tartaria. Cities reveal monumental structures, often spanning multiple stories, constructed with precision-engineered stone and brickwork. Domes, arches, towers, and spires are aligned with geometric and sometimes celestial patterns, suggesting a deep understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and symbolism. Public squares and ceremonial spaces were meticulously designed, serving both practical and aesthetic purposes. These structures reflect not just functionality, but a deliberate projection of power, cultural sophistication, and civic pride. The layout and scale of cities reveal leaders who understood architecture as a form of communication, a way to convey strength, order, and shared identity to citizens and visitors alike. Artistic expression permeated daily life. Coins, medallions, reliefs, and decorative panels showcase highly skilled craftsmanship and symbolic meaning. Figures of rulers, mythical beings, and celestial motifs appear across these artifacts, indicating both aesthetic sensibility and a society deeply invested in narrative and identity. The art of Tartaria was intertwined with governance, religion, and cultural memory. Each object, whether ceremonial or utilitarian, conveyed information about status, belief, or achievement, suggesting a civilization where artistic literacy was widespread and valued across social strata. Monumental sculpture and carvings further illustrate Tartaria's aesthetic sensibilities. Reliefs on building facades often depict scenes of civic life, technological achievement, or ritual significance. Statues of deities, rulers, or abstract symbols may have served ceremonial, educational, or ideological purposes. Some sculptures show surprising anatomical precision and dynamic composition, indicating artistic training and observational skill far beyond what contemporary historians might expect for the era. These artifacts hint at a culture that honored creativity as much as engineering, embedding meaning in physical form with both beauty and purpose. Symbolism played a central role in Tartarian art. Geometric patterns, recurring motifs, and coded representations appear repeatedly across architecture and artifacts, suggesting a system of cultural communication. Some symbols align with celestial phenomena or incorporate mathematical ratios, blending spiritual, aesthetic, and scientific knowledge. This integration of art, technology, and ritual underscores the sophistication of the civilization and hints at knowledge potentially lost to time. Each design element was carefully chosen to convey meaning, maintain cohesion, and inspire a sense of wonder among citizens. The emotional impact of Tartaria's artistic legacy is profound. Imagine walking through a city where every building, square, and street conveys both utility and beauty, where artisans' work reflects the culture's values, and where public spaces foster civic pride and intellectual engagement. The combination of grandeur, precision, and creativity evokes awe, connecting modern observers with the minds and hands of a civilization long erased. It is not just the scale, but the humanity embedded in these creations that leaves a lasting impression. Ambition, skill, and imagination intertwined across every stone and artifact. Cultural resilience also emerges from Tartaria's artistic and architectural legacy. Even as mud floods, invasions, and historical suppression threatened the civilization, the artifacts and structures that survived reveal a society deeply committed to identity and expression. Art was a repository of knowledge, a tool for cohesion, and a form of communication that transcended generations. Through design, symbolism, and craftsmanship, Tartaria preserved memory and meaning, leaving traces that continue to intrigue and inspire today. Some Tartarian buildings suggest functionality beyond the visual. Architectural anomalies, such as staircases leading to nowhere, elevated platforms, and intricate bas-reliefs, hint at hidden mechanisms or multi-purpose uses. Scholars debate whether these were practical innovations, symbolic constructions, or both. Whatever their purpose, these features demonstrate the integration of imagination, engineering, and cultural expression. Art and architecture were inseparable from technological and societal sophistication, reflecting a civilization in which human creativity permeated every aspect of life. The interplay of art, architecture, and societal values also hints at education and cultural transmission. Citizens likely learned to appreciate symbolic language, architectural principles, and artistic techniques from an early age. Public monuments served as visual lessons, narrating history, morality, and civic duty while reinforcing cultural identity. In this way, Tartarian cities were simultaneously schools, theaters, and civic centers, creating a society in which artistic literacy and cultural awareness were embedded in daily life. Yet the beauty and sophistication of Tartaria also underscore the tragedy of erasure. These creations, once vibrant and functional, now lie buried, misattributed, or partially destroyed. The grandeur of monuments, the skill of artisans, and the symbolic depth of art survive only in fragments, leaving modern observers to reconstruct meaning from incomplete evidence. The emotional resonance is double-edged. Human achievement intertwined with melancholy for what has been lost. Each surviving piece carries the weight of a civilization that dared to dream, build, and create on a scale that continues to challenge our understanding. As we move forward, the next section will explore the mysterious collapse of Tartaria, examining environmental, social, and political factors that contributed to the empire's sudden disappearance. By understanding the forces that erased this civilization, we not only reconstruct its story, but also confront broader questions about the fragility of human achievement and the impermanence of history itself. Despite its monumental achievements, Tartaria vanished from history in a manner that continues to perplex historians, archaeologists, and enthusiasts alike. The empire's collapse was neither gradual nor fully documented. Instead, it appears sudden, leaving behind cities, fortifications, and artifacts whose meaning would only become the subject of speculation centuries later. The forces behind this disappearance likely combined environmental catastrophe, social disruption, and external pressures, creating a perfect storm that erased one of history's most advanced civilizations almost entirely. Environmental upheaval may have played a decisive role. Evidence of widespread mud floods, sudden sediment deposits, and partially buried cities suggest that natural disasters could have devastated urban centers in an instant. These events would have disrupted infrastructure, destroyed homes, and wiped out agricultural lands, leaving populations vulnerable and destabilizing entire regions. Unlike slower societal collapses caused by political mismanagement, Tartaria's environmental challenges may have been abrupt, overwhelming even the most organized defense and governance systems. The speed and scale of such disasters could explain the absence of detailed contemporary records. An empire physically erased before chroniclers could document it fully. Social factors likely compounded these environmental pressures. Populations dependent on centralized infrastructure and urban planning would have struggled to adapt in the face of sudden disruption. Civil unrest, migration, and breakdowns in governance may have accelerated the empire's decline. Labor forces maintaining water systems, transportation networks, and city structures would have been overwhelmed, leaving monumental projects unfinished and cities increasingly vulnerable. The collapse of social cohesion in the wake of disaster would have amplified the impact of environmental events, creating a feedback loop that hastened Tartaria's erasure. External pressures may also have contributed. Neighboring empires and emerging powers, recognizing Tartaria's wealth, technological sophistication, and strategic position, might have exploited vulnerabilities during periods of crisis. Invasions, territorial annexations, or forced assimilation could have disrupted trade networks, seized resources, and dismantled administrative systems. Evidence of repurposed buildings, misattributed artifacts, and altered maps suggest that Tartaria's disappearance may have been facilitated by deliberate human action, compounding the effects of natural and social disasters. The combination of environmental, social, and political pressures presents a multidimensional explanation for a collapse that appears both sudden and comprehensive. The emotional impact of this disappearance is profound. Imagine a civilization with vast cities, advanced technology, disciplined armies, and rich cultural expression suddenly erased. Families, artisans, rulers, and soldiers who built, defended, and nurtured this society would have witnessed its destruction firsthand. The psychological toll on survivors, the grief, confusion, and desperation, remains invisible to history, yet it resonates through the ruins and artifacts left behind. The collapse was not merely a loss of infrastructure. It was the erasure of identity, knowledge, and memory. Archaeological anomalies further complicate the picture. Some cities appear partially buried or layered in ways suggesting rapid sediment deposition rather than slow urban decay. Buildings with intact upper structures, yet buried lower levels hint at catastrophic events rather than gradual abandonment. These physical traces align with historical accounts and oral traditions describing floods, sudden changes in terrain, or other environmental disruptions. The material evidence underscores the possibility that Tartaria did not vanish slowly through decline, but was swept away by forces beyond its citizens' control. The role of technology in the collapse is equally intriguing. While Tartaria's innovations may have supported urban planning, construction, and defense, some scholars speculate that certain technologies could have contributed to vulnerability. Hydraulic systems, energy devices, or experimental machinery, if mismanaged or damaged during environmental upheaval, might have exacerbated disasters. Alternatively, advanced technologies may have been targeted during external attacks, dismantled, or repurposed by conquering powers. The intersection of human ingenuity and catastrophe highlights the fragility of even the most advanced societies. Historical suppression adds another layer to the mystery. Following the collapse, evidence of Tartaria's existence may have been deliberately obscured. Maps were altered, cities repurposed, and architectural marvels misattributed to other cultures. This erasure extends beyond physical disappearance into the realm of collective memory, leaving historians with tantalizing fragments and gaps. The combination of environmental disaster, social breakdown, external aggression, and deliberate suppression creates a narrative in which Tartaria's sudden collapse is both understandable and deeply enigmatic. Speculation about hidden survivors adds a human dimension to the mystery. Individuals or groups may have fled cities, preserving fragments of knowledge, technology, and culture in remote regions. These communities, if they existed, could have influenced neighboring societies, transferring elements of Tartarian ingenuity while leaving no formal record. The idea of hidden custodians of lost knowledge fuels fascination and contributes to the sense of Tartaria as not only a vanished empire, but a ghostly presence lingering at the edges of history. The collapse also forces reflection on the impermanence of human achievement. Tartaria demonstrates that even societies capable of extraordinary technological, cultural, and architectural feats are vulnerable to forces beyond their control. Natural disasters, social instability, and external pressures can erase the most impressive accomplishments, leaving only fragments for future generations to interpret. The emotional resonance is haunting, a civilization that reached heights of sophistication reduced to mystery, challenging modern assumptions about progress, resilience, and historical continuity. As we move forward, the next section will examine the surviving mysteries of Tartaria. The artifacts, ruins, and symbolic traces that continue to provoke questions, inspire theories, and fuel speculation. By investigating what remains, we confront the enigma of an empire erased from conventional history, yet preserved in fragments that defy explanation and invite imagination. Even after centuries, fragments of Tartaria persist, whispering secrets of a civilization erased from conventional history. These remnants are scattered across landscapes, hidden in plain sight within architecture, artifacts, and maps. Each surviving clue carries the weight of both mystery and memory, provoking questions that historians, researchers, and enthusiasts continue to explore. From partially buried cities to enigmatic machinery, Tartaria's surviving mysteries are threads connecting us to a lost world of ingenuity, culture, and ambition. Architectural anomalies remain among the most compelling surviving mysteries. Across continents, buildings and urban layouts display remarkable uniformity, precision, and design that conventional explanations struggle to account for. Massive domes, arched bridges, and multi-story structures often appear in alignment with geometric or celestial patterns, suggesting knowledge of engineering, astronomy, and mathematics that surpasses the historical context in which they were built. In some locations, entire cities lie partially buried under sediment, as if frozen mid-construction, leaving investigators to wonder whether natural disasters, deliberate concealment, or both contributed to their hidden state. Artifacts add another layer of intrigue. Coins, medallions, and decorative panels depict rulers, symbolic devices, and intricate machinery whose purpose remains uncertain. Some medallions appear to encode technological knowledge, depicting structures or devices that hint at energy systems, mechanical innovations, or even unknown forms of engineering. While these items are often dismissed as decorative or ceremonial, their recurring patterns and complexity suggest practical application, hinting at technologies lost to time. Each artifact becomes a puzzle, a tangible remnant of human ingenuity now shrouded in mystery. Maps provide equally perplexing evidence. Historical maps and sketches reveal city layouts, trade routes, and territories inconsistent with established histories of the regions. Some maps depict structures, settlements, or geographical features that no longer exist or are buried beneath later developments. The accuracy and consistency of these depictions raise questions about cartographic knowledge, memory, and intent. Were these maps created to preserve knowledge, to assert territorial claims, or to encode secrets? The ambiguity fuels speculation, making Tartaria a ghostly presence on a historical record, simultaneously visible and invisible. Symbols and inscriptions also survive as tantalizing enigmas. Geometric motifs, celestial alignments, and abstract carvings appear repeatedly across architectural elements and artifacts, suggesting a symbolic language or encoded knowledge. Some researchers propose that these symbols contain instructions for technology, cultural rituals, or governance, though no definitive decoding exists. The repetition and precision of these markings imply intentionality, pointing to a civilization acutely aware of the importance of communication, memory, and legacy. These symbols challenge modern observers to look beyond surface aesthetics and consider the deeper purpose embedded in Tartaria's material culture. Urban anomalies further deepen the mystery. Cities often contain staircases leading nowhere, elevated platforms without apparent function, or hidden chambers beneath monumental buildings. These features provoke questions about their purpose. Were they ceremonial, practical, or technological? Some scholars speculate that such structures could have been part of energy systems, water management, or observational platforms aligned with celestial events. Others argue that they are deliberate puzzles, designed to preserve knowledge from outsiders or future generations. The lack of documentation leaves interpretation open, enhancing the allure and enigma of Tartaria's surviving physical legacy. The emotional resonance of these mysteries is profound. Each ruin, artifact, and symbol connects us to human ambition, creativity, and the fragility of civilization. Imagine craftsmen, architects, soldiers, and citizens contributing to a society of immense sophistication, only for its traces to survive partially, obscured, and misunderstood centuries later. The gaps in the record evoke awe, melancholy, and curiosity, a sense of wonder tinged with the ache of loss. Tartaria's surviving mysteries serve as reminders that human achievement can endure in fragments, even when the broader civilization disappears from memory. Technological remnants are particularly compelling. Some structures hint at advanced energy distribution or mechanical systems, with features that appear functional yet defy conventional explanation. Devices depicted on coins or medallions may encode knowledge of machines, pulleys, or energy harnessing, raising the possibility that Tartaria possessed practical innovations far ahead of its time. The tantalizing idea of lost technology fuels speculation and inspires both historians and enthusiasts to imagine what might have been possible, leaving modern society to ponder how knowledge can vanish while traces endure. Cultural remnants also persist in surprising ways. Ceremonial spaces, public squares, and architectural motifs indicate a civilization attentive to both aesthetic and societal cohesion. Rituals, symbols, and artistic expression embedded in surviving structures hint at shared beliefs, values, and traditions. Even partially buried or damaged, these remnants reveal a civilization deeply invested in identity, memory, and the transmission of knowledge. They speak not only of what was built or created, but of the social and emotional fabric of a civilization that valued meaning as much as material achievement. Some mysteries extend into human memory and folklore. Stories passed down in oral traditions, cryptic references in distant chronicles, and fragmented accounts from travelers hint at Tartaria's presence long after its disappearance. While these accounts are often dismissed as myth or exaggeration, their consistency across regions suggests kernels of truth. Combined with physical remnants, these narratives create a multidimensional picture of a civilization that left both tangible and intangible legacies, bridging the gap between history, legend, and imagination. Ultimately, Tartaria's surviving mysteries challenge our understanding of history itself. They force us to confront questions about erasure, memory, and the fragility of human achievement. How can a civilization of such sophistication vanish so completely, leaving behind only fragments and anomalies? What truths are hidden in symbols, artifacts, and architectural features that resist conventional interpretation? And, perhaps most importantly, what might these remnants teach us about our own societies, their vulnerabilities, and the impermanence of human endeavor? As we move forward, the next section will explore the legends and myths that emerge from Tartaria's remnants, examining how stories of gods, heroes, and unexplained phenomena were inspired by the Empire's lost cities, artifacts, and symbolic traces. By investigating the myths born from the ruins, we continue to uncover the human need to interpret, remember, and give meaning to a civilization erased from recorded history. The shadows of Tartaria stretch far beyond ruins and artifacts, extending into the realm of legend and myth. Centuries after the civilization vanished, stories emerged across distant lands, tales of magnificent cities, advanced knowledge, and enigmatic rulers. These legends, though often dismissed as folklore, hint at a cultural memory preserved in human imagination, revealing the enduring impact of a civilization that sought to assert its identity even as it faded from history. One recurring theme in Tartarian myths is the existence of colossal cities, buried or hidden, filled with treasures and inventions beyond comprehension. Local oral traditions describe structures that rise impossibly above the landscape, their towers and spires touching the sky. In some accounts, these cities are surrounded by rivers of light, energy, or water, suggesting a society in tune with natural and possibly technological forces. The fantastical elements may exaggerate reality, but they also preserve kernels of truth. Enormous urban centers, sophisticated architecture, and ingenious engineering that left a lasting impression on those who encountered them. Heroes and rulers of Tartaria populate these stories, depicted as wise, powerful, or almost supernatural. Some legends speak of monarchs who commanded armies, controlled knowledge, and maintained order with seemingly magical ability. Others tell of inventors and engineers who harnessed energy, devised machines, or built structures that defied the natural laws of the time. While these figures are mythologized, they point to a historical reality in which leadership, skill, and ingenuity were central to Tartaria's identity. The persistence of such tales highlights humanity's desire to remember greatness, even when the details of history are lost. Mystical artifacts and sacred spaces also feature prominently in Tartarian legends. Coins, medallions, and symbolic carvings described in myths are often imbued with power, serving as keys to knowledge, protection, or hidden cities. Some stories depict devices that could generate light, move massive structures, or channel energy in ways that modern observers struggle to explain. While these accounts verge on the fantastical, they suggest that Tartaria's material culture left a profound psychological imprint, inspiring narratives that blended reality with imagination and encoded fragments of lost knowledge into enduring myth. Natural disasters and the empire's sudden collapse are echoed in myth as well. Stories describe great floods, mud-swept cities, and the sudden disappearance of entire populations. Legends transform historical catastrophe into moral and symbolic tales, where divine wrath, cosmic balance, or human hubris explains the erasure of a mighty civilization. These narratives convey both awe and fear, reflecting an emotional response to the loss of knowledge, culture, and human achievement. They offer a way for successive generations to process a past too extraordinary and too tragic to understand fully. Certain myths even suggest secret survivors, custodians of knowledge who fled Tartaria's destruction and preserved the civilization's legacy in hidden locations. Tales speak of hidden enclaves, secret libraries, and underground communities maintaining advanced knowledge, awaiting a future time when the world would be ready. While there is no definitive evidence for these custodians, the recurrence of such motifs across regions points to a collective imagination attempting to safeguard memory and possibility. They symbolize hope, resilience, and the enduring human desire to protect wisdom from erasure. The blending of history and myth in Tartaria reflects a deep psychological truth. When civilizations vanish abruptly, human memory preserves them through stories, symbols, and imagination. Legends allow societies to retain fragments of lost knowledge while interpreting them through moral, spiritual, or emotional lenses. In this way, myths become a vessel for truth, memory, and speculation, bridging the gap between historical fact and cultural consciousness. Tartaria stories are not just fanciful tales. They are echoes of a world that once existed, refracted through the lens of human perception and narrative. Art, architecture, and technological ingenuity all feed into the myth-making process. Massive structures, intricate carvings, and enigmatic devices inspire awe and speculation, providing fertile ground for oral traditions and fantastical accounts. Travelers, scribes, and historians encountering these remnants often exaggerated details, blending observation with imagination. Over generations, such stories evolved into the rich tapestry of legends we encounter today, a testament to Tartaria's profound and lingering influence on human culture, even in absence of concrete historical records. The emotional dimension of these myths is striking. They evoke wonder, curiosity, and longing, connecting modern audiences with the lost world of Tartaria. Readers and listeners are transported to a civilization of astonishing achievement, only to confront its sudden erasure. The combination of marvel and loss generates a powerful emotional resonance. Fascination intertwined with melancholy, curiosity tempered by the recognition of impermanence. Myths preserve this emotional essence, ensuring that Tartaria continues to captivate the imagination centuries after its disappearance. These legends also prompt modern reflection on the fragility of human civilization. They remind us that even societies capable of great achievement can vanish, leaving only fragments, whispers, and stories. Myths offer both caution and inspiration. They encourage curiosity about the past while underscoring the vulnerability of knowledge, culture, and human endeavor. In exploring Tartaria's myths, we confront not only the enigma of a lost civilization, but also our own questions about history, memory, and the forces that shape collective understanding. As we move forward, the next section will examine Tartaria's scientific and technological enigmas, a deeper exploration of devices, energy systems, and urban innovations that remain partially understood. By analyzing these enigmas, we continue to peel back the layers of a civilization erased from conventional history, yet preserve in fragments that challenge our understanding and ignite our imagination. Beyond architecture and art, Tartaria's legacy whispers through its scientific and technological enigmas. While the empire itself vanished, the traces of knowledge embedded in structures, artifacts, and maps suggest a civilization that may have understood principles far ahead of its time. From energy systems to precision engineering, Tartaria challenges conventional timelines of human innovation, leaving modern researchers to wonder what secrets were lost and what could have been possible if its knowledge had endured. Urban planning offers the first clue to Tartaria's advanced understanding. Many cities reveal a remarkable consistency in layout, with streets, public spaces, and monumental buildings aligned according to geometric and, in some cases, celestial patterns. Such precision implies knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and environmental engineering. Waterways, canals, and drainage systems indicate sophisticated hydraulic planning, designed not only to sustain the population, but also to withstand natural disasters. Some researchers speculate that Tartaria may have developed energy or mechanical systems integrated into these urban designs, though direct evidence remains elusive. Artifacts further suggest technological mastery. Coins, medallions, and decorative panels occasionally depict complex devices resembling generators, pulleys, or other machinery. While their exact function is unknown, These images imply that Tartaria possessed applied knowledge of mechanics and energy. Symbols and inscriptions often accompany these depictions, hinting at encoded instructions or ceremonial use, suggesting that science and technology were intertwined with cultural and spiritual practices. The sophistication of these artifacts invites speculation that Tartaria may have been a civilization experimenting with energy and mechanics in ways that would be remarkable even today. Hydraulic engineering, in particular, highlights Tartaria's technological foresight. Certain cities feature canals, aqueducts, and underground conduits that appear carefully calculated for water distribution, flood mitigation, and urban hygiene. Elevated platforms, drainage channels, and reservoirs suggest knowledge of fluid dynamics, possibly combined with energy management or climate adaptation. These systems reflect a civilization attuned to its environment, capable of harnessing natural forces to support urban life on a scale and precision that would challenge modern engineers attempting to recreate them without detailed blueprints. The enigmatic features of Tartarian architecture also hint at technological purpose. Staircases leading nowhere, elevated basements, hidden chambers, and precision-carved stone blocks suggest that some structures had functions beyond aesthetics or symbolism. Some theorists propose that these were energy-harnessing systems, mechanical devices, or experimental laboratories designed to manipulate materials, water, or even electrical phenomena. The lack of explicit records makes definitive conclusions impossible, but the consistency and complexity of these anomalies indicate intentionality rather than accident. Tartaria may have blended engineering with artistry in ways that remain partially undeciphered. Energy generation and utilization remain among Tartaria's most compelling enigmas. Some architectural features resemble conductors, generators, or energy distribution systems, while medallions depict structures that could function as mechanical or electrical devices. Although no intact systems survive, these clues suggest that Tartaria may have experimented with methods to harness and distribute energy, possibly for lighting, construction, or urban management. If true, this would place the civilization far ahead of conventional historical timelines, raising profound questions about the transmission, loss, and suppression of knowledge. Material science appears to have been equally sophisticated. Stonework, metal components, and construction materials indicate knowledge of durability, load distribution, and resilience. Blocks are often cut with precision that suggests advanced tools or techniques, while certain alloys and composites depicted in artifacts hint at experimentation with material properties. Combined with the precision of architectural alignments, these features portray a civilization that applied scientific observation to practical problems, achieving results that continue to mystify modern scholars and engineers. The emotional resonance of these enigmas is striking. Imagine inventors, engineers, and scholars laboring in Tartaria, designing devices, mapping cities, and experimenting with energy systems, only for their work to vanish almost entirely. The surviving fragments evoke awe at human ingenuity and melancholy for lost knowledge. Each architectural quirk, artifact, or symbol carries the weight of discovery and erasure simultaneously, provoking both curiosity and a sense of tragic loss. Tartaria's scientific legacy exists as a ghostly reminder of what human achievement can reach and how easily it can be obscured. Speculation about hidden knowledge further deepens the mystery. Some researchers propose that surviving devices or principles were preserved in secret, encoded in maps, artifacts, or oral traditions. Others suggest that advanced systems were dismantled, repurposed, or destroyed by external powers seeking to erase Tartaria's technological edge. Whether through concealment, destruction, or natural disaster, the partial survival of these enigmas tantalizes modern inquiry. Every fragment offers the possibility of rediscovering methods that could reshape our understanding of history, technology, and human capability. Tartaria's technological enigmas also intersect with its cultural and spiritual identity. Devices, systems, and architectural anomalies are often intertwined with symbolic or ceremonial elements, indicating that science was not divorced from culture, but integrated with art, ritual, and governance. Technology was both practical and expressive, serving the needs of society while reinforcing cultural cohesion and identity. This holistic integration emphasizes a worldview in which knowledge, creativity, and societal organization were inseparable, reinforcing the impression of Tartaria as a civilization uniquely advanced in both intellect and imagination. Ultimately, the scientific and technological enigmas of Tartaria challenge our assumptions about human history. They raise questions about what civilizations are capable of, how knowledge is preserved or lost, and what mysteries may still lie buried beneath the surface. Tartaria exists as both a warning and an inspiration, a reminder that human ingenuity is profound, yet fragile, that progress can be erased, and that even fragments of lost civilizations can ignite curiosity, wonder, and the pursuit of discovery. As we move forward, the next section will delve into Tartaria's mysterious rulers and the power structures that guided the empire. By examining leadership, governance, and the enigmatic figures who shaped policy and society, we gain insight into the human dimension of a civilization whose intellectual and technological prowess was matched by political complexity. Behind Tartaria's vast cities, monumental architecture, and technological enigmas stood a system of leadership that remains largely hidden yet profoundly influential. The empire's rulers were not merely administrators. They were visionaries, strategists, and sometimes enigmatic figures whose authority shaped every aspect of society. While documentation is scarce, surviving artifacts, architectural symbolism, and fragmentary accounts hint at a hierarchy blending political control, spiritual guidance, and technological oversight, a governance system as sophisticated as the civilization it commanded. Tartaria's rulers appear to have combined military authority with intellectual and cultural leadership. Coins, medallions, and inscriptions often depict sovereigns alongside symbols of science, astronomy, and architecture, suggesting that knowledge and power were intertwined. These leaders may have personally overseen urban planning, technological projects, and strategic infrastructure, making governance a deeply hands-on endeavor. Unlike monarchies or empires elsewhere, Tartarian authority seems to have extended into both practical administration and the cultivation of societal advancement, reinforcing the impression of rulers as both stewards and architects of civilization. Hierarchy and bureaucracy likely played a key role in maintaining cohesion across vast territories. Administrative divisions, trade oversight, and urban management would have required officials capable of executing complex plans, mediating disputes, and managing resources efficiently. Artifacts depicting seals, emblems, and coded symbols hint at an organized system for communication and record-keeping, possibly including advanced techniques for transmitting information across long distances. Such organization would have been essential in a civilization marked by enormous cities, sophisticated technology, and far-reaching trade networks. Religious and ceremonial roles may have been intertwined with governance. Certain structures, inscriptions, and ceremonial spaces suggest that Tartarian rulers derived legitimacy not only from political power, but also from spiritual authority. Temples, altars, and symbolic carvings often appear in conjunction with administrative centers, indicating that rulership was as much about ritual and cultural cohesion as military strength or bureaucratic oversight. In this context, leaders may have been seen as intermediaries between the natural, technological, and spiritual worlds, reinforcing social unity and moral order. The enigmatic rulers of Tartaria also hint at a blend of secrecy and spectacle. Some medallions and reliefs depict figures shrouded in symbolism, accompanied by devices, architectural elements, or celestial motifs whose meaning remains obscure. These images suggest a deliberate cultivation of mystery, perhaps to inspire awe, assert authority, or convey knowledge selectively. Leaders may have employed both public rituals and hidden instruction, controlling information to maintain power while guiding innovation, cultural development, and societal cohesion. Succession and governance strategies remain speculative but intriguing. Tartarian leadership may have combined hereditary succession with meritocratic or ceremonial selection, rewarding skill, knowledge, or spiritual aptitude. The prominence of symbolic devices in depictions of rulers implies that power was closely linked to cultural and technological competency. Leaders may have been expected to demonstrate mastery of urban planning, scientific knowledge, or ceremonial practice, blending intellectual and practical ability with traditional authority. This fusion of skill and legitimacy would have reinforced social stability while promoting advancement across multiple domains. The emotional and psychological dimensions of leadership are also worth considering. Rulers of Tartaria presided over a civilization of immense complexity, balancing ambition, responsibility, and the constant pressure to sustain urban, technological, and cultural systems. The stakes were extraordinarily high. One miscalculation could disrupt trade, undermine governance, or threaten public safety. Surviving symbols of authority, from monumental inscriptions to personal artifacts, hint at both the burden and the prestige of leadership, offering a glimpse into the human experience behind a civilization often reduced to mystery and legend. Military command was likely integrated with political and technological authority. Artifacts depicting soldiers, fortifications, and symbolic devices suggest that leaders oversaw both defense and strategy, coordinating forces across cities and territories. Advanced fortifications and strategic urban layouts imply that rulers were intimately involved in military planning, balancing protection against internal unrest and external threats. Power in Tartaria appears to have been multifaceted, simultaneously civic, technological, ceremonial, and martial, reflecting a holistic approach to governance unparalleled in contemporary societies. Trade and diplomatic influence may have been central to the power structures. Leaders controlled vast networks of commerce, managing resources, establishing alliances, and possibly influencing neighboring regions. Surviving medallions and inscriptions hint at the use of symbolic communication to convey treaties, partnerships, or directives, suggesting a nuanced understanding of negotiation, prestige, and strategic planning. This combination of domestic authority and external influence allowed Tartaria to maintain cohesion and prosperity across territories, while also projecting power and cultural identity beyond its borders. The sudden disappearance of the empire raises questions about the fragility of its leadership structures. Environmental disasters, social unrest, or external pressures could have undermined even the most sophisticated governance system. The rapidity of Tartaria's collapse implies that while rulers were effective in many respects, the civilization may have been vulnerable to forces beyond human control. Artifacts and ruins left behind serve as silent witnesses to both the accomplishments and the limitations of leadership, capturing the tension between ambition and fragility that define the empire. Ultimately, understanding Tartaria's rulers and power structures adds depth to our perception of the civilization. It was not merely a collection of monumental cities, technological marvels, or mysterious artifacts. It was a society guided by human visionaries who navigated complexity, uncertainty, and ambition, striving to maintain cohesion, progress, and cultural identity. The legacy of leadership, intertwined with myth, technology, and societal achievement, underscores both the brilliance and the vulnerability of a civilization now erased from conventional history. As we move forward, the next section will explore Tartaria's hidden knowledge and law sciences, examining how intellectual, technological, and symbolic systems may have preserved wisdom now lost, providing insight into a civilization whose influence lingers in enigmatic ways. Tartaria's enduring fascination lies not only in its monumental architecture and enigmatic rulers, but in the shadow of knowledge it seems to have lost. Beneath the surface of ruins and relics, traces of intellectual sophistication hint at a civilization steeped in science, philosophy, and experimentation. The evidence, scattered across artifacts, inscriptions, and architectural anomalies, suggests a systematic approach to understanding the world, an integration of observation, design, and theory that defies conventional historical timelines. One of the most intriguing aspects of Tartaria's hidden knowledge is its possible mastery of energy and mechanics. Certain structures, such as elevated platforms, underground conduits, and anomalous domes, suggest the harnessing of natural forces, perhaps electricity, magnetism, or hydraulics, in ways that modern engineering has only recently approached. Medallions and carvings depict devices resembling gears, generators, or other mechanisms, hinting that these principles were understood and applied on a practical scale. While definitive evidence is lacking, the consistency of these depictions across regions and eras implies intentional design rather than coincidence. Urban planning itself reflects an understanding of environmental science. Cities appear meticulously aligned with cardinal directions, solar patterns, and possibly celestial events. Canals, aqueducts, and water management systems indicate knowledge of hydraulics, flow control, and climate adaptation. Elevated streets, terrace structures, and sediment management suggest foresight into natural disasters such as floods or earthquakes. These observations imply a civilization that combined observation with practical application, integrating scientific understanding into the very fabric of daily life and urban infrastructure. Astronomy and mathematics may have been central to Tartaria's intellectual achievements. Monuments and city layouts sometimes align with solstices, equinoxes, or celestial bodies, hinting at a system of astronomical observation and calendrical calculation. Geometric patterns in architecture, artifacts, and decorative motifs suggest not only aesthetic preference, but a deep comprehension of mathematical ratios, symmetry, and harmonic proportions. Knowledge in these domains would have supported technological, agricultural, and ceremonial systems, providing both practical guidance and symbolic resonance. The integration of science and ritual is another compelling feature of Tartarian knowledge. Artifacts, ceremonial spaces, and architectural features often merge technological function with symbolic meaning. Devices depicted on coins or medallions may have had practical uses while simultaneously serving as ceremonial or cultural markers. Similarly, urban layouts could reflect both functional necessity and symbolic cosmology. This synthesis demonstrates a civilization in which intellectual, technological, and spiritual pursuits were deeply intertwined, producing innovations that were as practical as they were culturally meaningful. Material science offers further clues to lost Tartarian capabilities. Stone blocks, metal alloys, and construction composites reveal a command of durability, load distribution, and resistance that continues to challenge modern engineers. Certain inscriptions and artifacts hint at metallurgical techniques, possibly including alloying or treatment processes now forgotten. Such materials would have supported monumental architecture, machinery, and tools, suggesting an advanced understanding of physical properties and their practical application. The sophistication of these systems implies that knowledge in Tartaria was not theoretical alone, but rigorously applied. Language and symbolism may have preserved intellectual knowledge as well. Geometric motifs, encoded inscriptions, and abstract carvings appear repeatedly across regions and artifacts. Some researchers suggest that these symbols functioned as a coded repository, transmitting scientific principles, engineering methods, or philosophical ideas in a form accessible only to trained observers. This hypothesis, though speculative, reflects a civilization concerned with the preservation and controlled dissemination of knowledge, balancing accessibility with secrecy to protect intellectual heritage from outsiders or future catastrophes. The potential scope of Tartaria's sciences is staggering. From energy systems to mathematics, from material science to environmental engineering, the surviving traces suggest a civilization capable of remarkable innovation. The interplay of practical function, aesthetic sophistication, and symbolic meaning points to an integrated approach to understanding reality, a synthesis that merges observation, experimentation, and philosophical reflection. Modern observers can only glimpse fragments, but even these hint at achievements that challenge assumptions about historical progress and human capability. The emotional weight of these lost sciences is profound. Imagine scholars, engineers, and artisans laboring to develop systems, document observations, and create innovations, only to have their civilization vanish. The knowledge they cultivated may have been partially preserved in hidden artifacts or symbolic systems, but much was likely lost to time, natural disaster, or deliberate suppression. Surviving fragments evoke awe at human ingenuity while stirring melancholy for what might have been. A civilization with insight, capability, and creativity erased before its lessons could fully shape subsequent generations. The mystery deepens when considering possible preservation. Some legends and oral traditions hint at secret custodians or hidden libraries where Tartarian knowledge survived, passed down selectively or concealed until the world was ready. While evidence is largely circumstantial, the consistency of these accounts across regions suggests that some form of intellectual continuity may have existed, creating a bridge between vanished civilization and modern curiosity. These stories underscore humanity's desire to safeguard wisdom even amidst catastrophe, reflecting an enduring recognition of the value of knowledge. In the broader context, Tartaria's hidden sciences challenge our understanding of human history. They suggest that knowledge, innovation, and intellectual achievement are not always linear or cumulative. They can emerge, flourish, and vanish in ways that leave only tantalizing traces. The civilization's legacy, partially preserved in artifacts, architectural anomalies, and symbolic systems, compels us to rethink assumptions about historical progress and the fragility of human insight. Tartaria reminds us that what survives in memory, legend, or physical remnants may only hint at the vast scope of achievement that once existed. As we move forward, The next section will explore Tartaria's mysterious military power, examining armies, strategies, and defense systems that helped sustain the empire and shaped its influence. By delving into the martial dimension, we gain insight into how this civilization combined intellect, architecture, and leadership with formidable defense, further illuminating the multidimensional sophistication of a society erased from conventional history. Tartaria's grandeur was not sustained by architecture and intellect alone. It was defended by formidable military power that ensured the empire's stability, territorial control, and survival. While direct records are sparse, surviving artifacts, city layouts, and symbolic depictions suggest a civilization that understood the strategic, technological, and psychological dimensions of warfare. The empire's armies were not simply instruments of conquest. They were an integrated part of governance, technological development, and social cohesion, reflecting a sophisticated approach to defense and control. Fortifications provide the first insight into Tartaria's military sophistication. Cities often feature massive walls, elevated bastions, and intricate defensive networks that appear designed to withstand both natural disasters and human assault. Strategic placement of gates, towers, and observation points demonstrates an understanding of terrain, sight lines, and tactical advantage. Some fortifications incorporate architectural anomalies that suggest hidden passageways, escape routes, or even mechanical defense mechanisms. Environmental and societal insights also form part of Tartaria's enduring relevance. The civilization's apparent understanding of urban planning, water management, and energy systems suggests that modern societies might still learn from its innovations. Some researchers speculate that rediscovering even fragments of Tartarian knowledge could inspire new approaches to sustainable city design, architecture, and resource management. This potential underscores the civilization's ongoing significance. It is not merely a historical curiosity, but a source of ideas that could inform present and future human endeavors. The intersection of mystery and legacy highlights a fundamental human impulse, the desire to preserve knowledge, achieve greatness, and leave a mark on the world. Tartaria embodies this impulse in dramatic form. Its sudden disappearance reminds us of fragility, yet the persistence of anomalies, artifacts, and encoded symbols testifies to endurance. Modern fascination bridges centuries, connecting present-day observers with those who shaped the empire, inviting reflection on continuity, impermanence, and the transmission of wisdom across time. Ultimately, Tartaria's legacy challenges how we define civilization, progress, and historical memory. It suggests that societies may achieve extraordinary technological, architectural, and intellectual feats, yet remain vulnerable to erasure. The civilization's mysteries provoke questions about what history records, what is intentionally hidden, and what is lost to circumstance. By engaging with Tartaria's legacy, we confront the limits of human understanding while marveling at the ingenuity that once flourished. In closing, Tartaria's enduring mysteries invite reflection on our relationship with knowledge, memory, and history. What if fragments of its lost sciences or encoded wisdom still survive, waiting to be rediscovered? What lessons about societal achievement, resilience, and the fragility of civilization might we glean from a culture that seemingly vanished overnight? These questions leave a lingering resonance, encouraging both wonder and inquiry. The civilization may be physically gone, but its influence persists in architecture, artifacts, stories, and the human imagination, reminding us that history is not only a record of what remains, but also a dialogue with what has been lost. Tartaria, erased from conventional history, remains alive in curiosity, speculation, and exploration. Its legacy challenges assumptions, inspires research, and evokes profound emotional resonance. By contemplating this lost civilization, we are reminded of the fragility and brilliance of human achievement, the power of knowledge to transcend time, and the enduring capacity of mystery to capture imagination. Tartaria's story, though incomplete, is a testament to human ingenuity and the eternal allure of what lies just beyond understanding. These features indicate that Tartaria invested considerable resources in securing its cities, blending engineering, planning, and strategy to create resilient urban centers. Artifacts hint at advanced weaponry and military technology. Coins, medallions, and reliefs depict warriors equipped with armor, siege engines, and devices whose purpose remains mysterious. Some illustrations suggest mechanical implements designed to manipulate heavy objects, project force, or control defensive mechanisms. While the precise function of these tools remains speculative, their consistent depiction across regions implies an organized approach to military engineering, combining practicality with innovation. Tartaria's armies may have leveraged technology as effectively as manpower, integrating invention into defense strategies in ways that challenged contemporaneous civilizations. The organization of the military was likely hierarchical, reflecting a blend of centralized command and specialized units. Symbolic representations of leaders, banners, and emblems suggest structured ranks, with officers responsible for training, logistics, and tactical execution. This level of organization would have been necessary to manage large populations, coordinate fortifications, and maintain control over expansive territories. Military authority appears to have been closely aligned with political power, with commanders potentially overseeing both civil administration and defense, reinforcing cohesion and strategic foresight throughout the empire. Tartaria's approach to warfare also incorporated psychological and symbolic elements. Monumental gates, towering walls, and imposing public squares may have been designed to inspire awe and project authority, deterring rebellion or invasion. Artistic representations of soldiers and leaders often depict figures in commanding, almost ritualized poses, suggesting that the image of military strength was as important as its actual execution. The interplay between symbolic display and practical preparedness reflects a civilization aware of the psychological dimensions of power, both internally among citizens and externally toward potential adversaries. Urban planning was deeply intertwined with defense strategy. Streets, canals, and public spaces were often arranged to facilitate rapid movement of troops, controlled access, and strategic deployment. Elevated platforms and hidden chambers within buildings may have served as defensive positions or observation points. Cities appear designed not merely for daily life, but for resilience under siege or threat. This integration of urban design and military function underscores Tartaria's holistic understanding of survival, blending technology, engineering, and social organization into a cohesive system of defense. Logistics and supply systems likely enhanced military effectiveness. Evidence of storage facilities, water management systems, and structured transport networks implies that armies could be provisioned efficiently across vast distances. This capacity for organization would have allowed Tartaria to maintain large standing forces, mobilize quickly, and respond to both internal unrest and external threats. The combination of strategic planning, resource management, and technological innovation points to a military system as sophisticated as the civilization it protected. The emotional dimension of military power is also striking. Soldiers and leaders were tasked with protecting not only territory, but knowledge, culture, and identity. The pressure of this responsibility would have been immense. Defending cities, preserving infrastructure, and safeguarding the intellectual achievements of the empire. Surviving depictions of warriors convey pride, discipline, and resolve, offering glimpses into the human experience behind Tartaria's military might. These individuals were not merely combatants. They were guardians of civilization itself, aware that failure could precipitate the loss of everything their society had built. External threats may have influenced both strategy and innovation. Tartaria's location placed it in contact with neighboring powers, trading partners, and potential rivals. Defense systems, fortifications, and symbolic displays of authority suggest a civilization responsive to geopolitical realities, capable of deterrence, negotiation, and rapid deployment. While evidence is fragmentary, it appears that Tartaria maintained both offensive and defensive readiness, using strategy, engineering, and psychological acumen to secure its place in a complex and dynamic world. The sudden disappearance of the empire casts a haunting shadow over its military legacy. Despite formidable defenses, strategic planning, and technological sophistication, Tartaria could not withstand the combined pressures of environmental catastrophe, social disruption, and possibly external aggression. The ruins, scattered artifacts, and symbolic remnants testify to the empire's former might, leaving modern observers to imagine what was lost. Military power, while extensive, proved insufficient to prevent erasure, highlighting the fragility of even the most sophisticated societies in the face of overwhelming forces. Ultimately, Tartaria's military power was more than the sum of soldiers, weapons, or fortifications. It reflected an integrated civilization, combining strategy, technology, leadership, and cultural influence. The army was both protector and symbol, enabling the empire to flourish while projecting authority and inspiring awe. Even in its disappearance, the military legacy of Tartaria endures through enigmatic structures, artifacts, and legends, reminding us that human ingenuity in defense and strategy can achieve remarkable heights, yet remain vulnerable to forces beyond control. As we move forward, the next section will examine Tartaria's mysterious communication and information systems, exploring how messages, records, and knowledge may have been transmitted, preserved, or encoded, further revealing the multidimensional sophistication of civilization now largely erased from history. Tartaria's sophistication extended beyond cities, armies, and technology. It encompassed a remarkable mastery of communication and information. For a civilization so expansive, transmitting knowledge, coordinating activities, and preserving cultural memory would have been essential. Though much evidence is fragmented or hidden, surviving maps, inscriptions, architectural cues, and artifacts hint at systems that were far more advanced than those typically attributed to societies of the era. The empire may have developed ways to encode, store, and transmit information, ensuring cohesion across its vast territories while safeguarding secrets from outsiders. Maps and cartography provide the first window into Tartaria's information systems. Historical documents and surviving illustrations depict highly detailed city layouts, road networks, and trade routes, often aligned with topographical and celestial features. Some maps show entire regions or settlements that later disappear, suggesting knowledge of geography and urban planning lost to time. The accuracy and repetition of these depictions indicate a systematic approach to observation and documentation, potentially used to coordinate trade, military campaigns, or urban construction. Maps were not merely tools. They were repositories of knowledge, linking physical space with strategic and technological insight. Inscriptions and symbolic carvings further illustrate communication methods. Geometric motifs, coded sequences, and recurring symbols appear on buildings, artifacts, and ceremonial objects. Some researchers propose that these markings were a form of encoded information, representing instructions, measurements, or scientific principles. While we cannot yet fully decipher their meaning, the repetition and precision suggest intentionality. Tartaria may have developed a symbolic language for transmitting knowledge across space and time, designed to be interpreted only by those initiated or trained in its principles. Architecture itself may have functioned as a medium of information. Urban layouts, building alignments, and structural anomalies hint at encoded knowledge of energy, water, or celestial observation. Certain structures appear to serve dual purposes: functional utility and informational encoding. Staircases, hidden chambers, elevated platforms, and domes may have been strategically designed to convey principles of physics, engineering, or astronomy to trained observers, embedding knowledge directly into the physical environment. This integration of function and message demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of communication beyond mere writing or speech. Artifacts such as medallions, coins, and ceremonial devices suggest portable means of encoding and transmitting knowledge. Some depict mechanical systems, symbolic sequences, or complex diagrams whose purpose remains mysterious. While often interpreted as decorative, these objects may have functioned as mnemonic devices, instructional tools, or keys to greater understanding. In this sense, Tartaria's information systems were not static. They were interactive, designed to engage both the intellect and the imagination, passing knowledge in ways that transcended simple literacy. Oral tradition likely complemented these systems. Stories, legends, and ceremonial recitations may have preserved information that was too sensitive, technical, or symbolic to inscribe openly. Combined with visual and architectural encoding, oral transmission allowed Tartaria to maintain continuity of knowledge across generations. Myth and legend, often dismissed as fanciful, may have contained elements of encoded history, technological understanding, or societal law. This blending of memory, symbol, and narrative reflects a civilization acutely aware of the fragility of knowledge and the need to protect and perpetuate it. The integration of communication systems with governance and military strategy underscores Tartaria's multidimensional sophistication. Leaders needed accurate, timely information to make decisions about defense, construction, trade, and resource management. Symbolic systems, encoded maps, and specialized artifacts may have facilitated secure transmission of sensitive data, while ceremonial or public displays communicated authority and cohesion to the broader population. Knowledge and power were inseparable, with information serving as both tool and weapon, reinforcing control while promoting societal efficiency. Technological possibilities further deepen the mystery. Some architectural anomalies hint at mechanisms for transmitting signals: optical, mechanical, or even energy-based, over distances. While speculative, these possibilities suggest that Tartaria may have explored forms of communication far ahead of its time, linking cities, fortifications, or ceremonial centers in ways modern historians have yet to fully understand. The remnants of these systems challenge assumptions about the capabilities of pre-modern civilizations and hint at ingenuity now largely lost. Emotionally, Tartaria's communication systems highlight the civilization's awareness of human memory and fragility. Leaders, engineers, and scholars likely understood that knowledge was ephemeral, threatened by disaster, invasion, or the passage of time. By encoding information into structures, symbols, and artifacts, They created a form of intellectual legacy capable of surviving even if the civilization itself vanished. Each hidden chamber, cryptic inscription, and detailed map is a testament to foresight, creativity, and the enduring human desire to preserve understanding against the odds. Ultimately, Tartaria's mastery of information underscores a civilization that integrated intellect, technology, and society in ways few have matched. The preservation of knowledge was not accidental. It was strategic, symbolic, and deeply intentional. Even today, centuries after the empire disappeared, these systems provoke awe, curiosity, and speculation. They remind us that communication is more than speech or writing. It is the careful orchestration of environment, symbol, and intellect to transmit wisdom, culture, and identity across both space and time. As we move to the final section, we will confront the ultimate mystery, the disappearance of Tartaria itself. By exploring theories, anomalies, and historical inconsistencies, we seek to understand how a civilization so sophisticated, technologically, militarily, and culturally, could vanish almost entirely. The conclusion will weave together these threads, offering reflection on memory, human ingenuity, and the enduring power of lost knowledge to inspire wonder in a modern world. The final enigma of Tartaria is its sudden disappearance, a civilization of astonishing complexity, intellect, and culture seemingly erased from history. Despite the traces left in architecture, artifacts, maps, and myths, no definitive records explain its fall. The very mystery of disappearance amplifies its allure, prompting questions that stretch across centuries. How could such a society vanish almost entirely, leaving only whispers, shadows, and tantalizing fragments behind? Some theories suggest natural catastrophes as a key factor. Geological events, such as massive floods, earthquakes, or climate shifts, could have devastated urban centers, disrupted agriculture, and fractured society. Evidence of sediment layers, ruins buried beneath mud or silt, and anomalous architectural damage supports the possibility of sudden environmental upheaval. If true, these natural forces may have overwhelmed even the most advanced engineering, proving that human ingenuity, no matter how sophisticated, is still vulnerable to the planet's raw power. Other interpretations propose social or political collapse. Tartaria's vast territories and complex governance structures may have been destabilized by internal strife, rebellion, or succession crises. As ambitious rulers navigated political, military, and technological pressures, unforeseen instability could have triggered fragmentation or mass exodus. Historical patterns show that empires, regardless of technological advancement, are ultimately sustained by the cohesion and loyalty of their people. The disappearance of Tartaria may reflect the delicate balance between authority, knowledge, and societal compliance, a balance that, once disrupted, can unravel even the most brilliant civilization. Conflict with external forces is another plausible explanation. Tartaria's advanced technology, wealth, and strategic location could have attracted rivals seeking to claim or destroy its resources. Evidence of scorched ruins, abandoned cities, and fragmented artifacts hints at confrontation, though conclusive proof remains elusive. If Tartaria was systematically attacked or its knowledge suppressed, its sudden disappearance may have been a combination of human aggression and deliberate erasure. A civilization erased not only by circumstance, but by the ambitions of others threatened by its achievements. The emotional weight of Tartaria's disappearance is profound. The ruins, relics, and encoded knowledge evoke awe at human creativity and melancholy for what was lost. Generations of innovators, engineers, scholars, and leaders built a civilization that merged technology, art, governance, and knowledge into a harmonious whole, only for it to vanish almost entirely. Each remaining artifact, city layout, and symbolic inscription carries the ghosts of people who once thrived. Their ingenuity both inspiring and haunting. We are left to imagine not only the heights they reached, but the human experience of witnessing such a civilization unravel. Perhaps most striking is the persistence of Tartaria in memory, myth, and speculation. Even after disappearance, the civilization left an indelible mark on human consciousness. Legends, oral traditions, and symbolic systems preserved fragments of its culture, encoded knowledge, and emotional resonance. The very act of disappearance amplified its mystery, turning real achievements into stories, artifacts into keys, and ruins into mirrors reflecting both our curiosity and our imagination. In this sense, Tartaria's vanishing was not total. It survived in perception, inspiring wonder and inquiry that continues to the present day. The philosophical implications of Tartaria's disappearance are equally profound. It challenges assumptions about linear progress, the permanence of human achievement, and the reliability of historical memory. Knowledge can flourish, empires can rise, and civilizations can achieve extraordinary heights. But all are subject to the impermanence of time, natural forces, and human intervention. Tartaria's story reminds us that history is fragile, selective, and often incomplete. What survives is a combination of material remnants, encoded knowledge, and human imagination, urging reflection on what is truly permanent and what is lost to memory. Lost knowledge, technological enigmas, and architectural marvels converge in this reflection. Each surviving artifact, each remaining city plan, offers a glimpse of sophistication we cannot fully comprehend. Devices hint at energy systems, maps suggest coordinated infrastructure, and myths encode wisdom once shared across generations. The civilization's disappearance forces us to confront the limits of our understanding, highlighting both the fragility and resilience of human innovation. While Tartaria may be erased from conventional history, its echoes provoke inquiry, speculation, and emotional engagement, preserving its presence in the realm of thought and imagination. There is also a lesson in resilience and hope. The enduring fascination with Tartaria encourages modern observers to explore, question, and imagine possibilities beyond conventional narratives. By piecing together fragments, examining anomalies, and respecting both myth and evidence, we engage in a form of historical recovery, acknowledging what was lost while inspiring new discovery. Tartaria's disappearance is thus both a warning and an invitation, a reminder of human vulnerability and the enduring power of curiosity, imagination, and intellectual pursuit. As we contemplate the vanished empire, a subtle call to reflection emerges. What if the secrets of Tartaria, buried in ruins, myths, or hidden artifacts, could reshape our understanding of history? What lessons about human ingenuity, societal fragility, and the preservation of knowledge might we uncover if more evidence surfaced? The disappearance of Tartaria is not merely a historical footnote. It is a mirror reflecting both the potential and fragility of civilizations, inviting modern audiences to question, explore, and imagine. Ultimately, the story of Tartaria concludes not with certainty, but with wonder. A civilization of astonishing complexity, technologically advanced, culturally rich, and politically sophisticated, vanished almost entirely, leaving behind fragments that provoke awe, speculation, and reflection. The ruins, symbols, and myths continue to inspire inquiry, reminding us that history is not only a record of what survives, but also a dialogue with what is lost. Tartaria's disappearance compels us to consider the impermanence of human achievement, the persistence of knowledge, and the enduring power of curiosity to bridge gaps across time. In the final moments of this exploration, the audience is left suspended between fact and speculation, reality and myth. Tartaria, erased from conventional history, yet preserved in traces and imagination, challenges us to reconsider our assumptions about human potential, technological development, and the preservation of culture. Its legacy is a tapestry woven from achievement and loss, awe and melancholy, knowledge and mystery. A civilization that may be gone, but continues to shape the way we perceive history, memory, and the possibilities of human ingenuity. Even in absence, Tartaria continues to cast a long shadow over modern thought, architecture, and the imagination of historians and researchers. Its disappearance has not diminished its influence. If anything, it has magnified the mystery, inspiring speculation about lost knowledge, hidden technologies, and alternative histories. Across the globe, traces of Tartaria are whispered in ruins, echoed in anomalous architecture, and hinted at in maps and medallions that defy conventional interpretation. These remnants suggest a civilization whose impact lingers long after its physical presence has vanished. Modern researchers are captivated by architectural anomalies attributed to Tartaria. From intricately carved buildings in Europe and Asia to urban layouts that appear impossibly precise, these structures hint at a level of engineering sophistication rarely acknowledged in mainstream history. Towers, domes, bridges, and canals reflect knowledge of geometry, hydraulics, and structural engineering that remains awe-inspiring. Some speculate that Tartaria's construction techniques utilized energy systems or mechanical methods now lost, further fueling the enigma surrounding its capabilities. Maps provide another enduring link to Tartaria. Historical documents depict territories, cities, and infrastructures that seem to exist outside the recognized historical record. Certain regions appear fully developed, only to vanish in later accounts. These cartographic anomalies suggest a level of geographic knowledge, urban planning, and territorial management that challenges conventional timelines. Scholars and enthusiasts debate whether these depictions reflect a forgotten empire, a lost civilization, or a deliberate erasure of historical knowledge. Regardless, they remain tantalizing evidence of Tartaria's reach and sophistication. Theories about Tartaria's legacy extend beyond physical remnants. Some propose that knowledge, whether technological, scientific, or cultural, may have been preserved in secret traditions, hidden texts, or encoded artifacts. These clandestine records, if they exist, could hold insights into energy systems, engineering, or urban planning lost to mainstream history. The very idea that a civilization could vanish physically while leaving behind cryptic legacies speaks to the resilience of human ingenuity and the persistence of knowledge in forms beyond immediate comprehension. Symbolism and encoded messages appear to be an enduring hallmark of Tartaria's influence. Medallions, carvings, and architectural motifs often incorporate geometric, astronomical, or mechanical references that suggest more than mere decoration. These symbols may have served multiple purposes, guiding construction, encoding knowledge, or preserving intellectual heritage. Even today, attempts to decipher these clues provoke debate and research, revealing how Tartaria's legacy continues to challenge modern understanding of history, technology, and human achievement. The emotional resonance of Tartaria's modern mysteries is profound. Enthusiasts and scholars alike are drawn into a narrative of wonder and loss, imagining the civilization as both remarkably advanced and tragically erased. There's a mixture of awe, melancholy, and curiosity, a recognition of human capability coupled with the frustration of gaps in knowledge. These feelings mirror the experiences of those who lived within Tartaria itself. The drive to create, innovate, and leave a lasting mark, now filtered through the lens of time and absence. Global fascination with Tartaria has fueled alternative historical research and artistic inspiration. Documentaries, books, and online communities explore the civilization's possible achievements and mysteries, blending evidence with interpretation, fact with speculation. Architecture, maps, and artifacts serve as touchstones for inquiry, encouraging both professional historians and amateur sleuths to ask questions about what has been preserved, what has been lost, and what might still lie undiscovered. This cultural afterlife ensures that Tartaria continues to influence thought, imagination, and research centuries after its disappearance. Environmental and societal insights also form part of Tartaria's enduring relevance. The civilization's apparent understanding of urban planning, water management, and energy systems suggests that modern societies might still learn from its innovations. Some researchers speculate that rediscovering even fragments of Tartarian knowledge could inspire new approaches to sustainable city design, architecture, and resource management. This potential underscores the civilization's ongoing significance. It is not merely a historical curiosity, but a source of ideas that could inform present and future human endeavors. The intersection of mystery and legacy highlights a fundamental human impulse: the desire to preserve knowledge, achieve greatness, and leave a mark on the world. Tartaria embodies this impulse in dramatic form. Its sudden disappearance reminds us of fragility, yet the persistence of anomalies, artifacts, and encoded symbols testifies to endurance. Modern fascination bridges centuries, connecting present-day observers with those who shaped the empire, inviting reflection on continuity, impermanence, and the transmission of wisdom across time. Ultimately, Tartaria's legacy challenges how we define civilization, progress, and historical memory. It suggests that societies may achieve extraordinary technological, architectural, and intellectual feats, yet remain vulnerable to erasure. The civilization's mysteries provoke questions about what history records, what is intentionally hidden, and what is lost to circumstance. By engaging with Tartaria's legacy, we confront the limits of human understanding while marveling at the ingenuity that once flourished. In closing, Tartaria's enduring mysteries invite reflection on our relationship with knowledge, memory, and history. What if fragments of its lost sciences or encoded wisdom still survive, waiting to be rediscovered? What lessons about societal achievement, resilience, and the fragility of civilization might we glean from a culture that seemingly vanished overnight? These questions leave a lingering resonance, encouraging both wonder and inquiry. The civilization may be physically gone, but its influence persists in architecture, artifacts, stories, and the human imagination, reminding us that history is not only a record of what remains, but also a dialogue with what has been lost. Tartaria, erased from conventional history, remains alive in curiosity, speculation, and exploration. Its legacy challenges assumptions, inspires research, and evokes profound emotional resonance. By contemplating this lost civilization, we are reminded of the fragility and brilliance of human achievement, the power of knowledge to transcend time, and the enduring capacity of mystery to capture imagination. Tartaria's story, though incomplete, is a testament to human ingenuity and the eternal allure of what lies just beyond understanding.